Hello and welcome to week 8 of season 2 of the Zwift Racing League. This is it. This is the final round where everything will be decided. Last week we had a points race, the final points race of season 2 on the Liberty Hill after party, and tonight's finale is on the Greater London flat route. It's a team time trial, and alongside me as ever to talk us through the action tonight is Hannah Walker. Hey Hannah.
Hey Matt, I can't believe we're into the final week of season 2.
It's gone so fast, hasn't it? It really, really has. And of course, the legend, the icon that is Mr. Dave Towle.
Well, thanks as always, Matt. Great to be with you and Hannah.
Good stuff, Dave. Well, there's a lot to talk about. We've got a little bit of a buffer at the top of the show before the women start off. They'll be off at around 15:15. But before we do that, and before we talk about all our takeaways and what's at stake tonight, let's have a look back at the action from the men's race for the Liberty Hill after party in the heart of Richmond, Virginia. Winner, but it's the team with the most points at the end of the night that wins the night. A couple of power-ups being used. Welling takes that one. Man of the moment, Freddie Ovett. He's riding exceptionally well, 154 beats a minute. These sprints are coming thick and fast, aren't they?
Tyler Williams there picks up 5 bonus points, and Freddie is just keeping that powder dry.
Matt Brook of the Bolt Racing team is going to take this one. Things are starting to kick off now. Big sprint here. Oh, it looks like Tyler Williams got that from Gledness. One more sprint. Oh, this is very, very close. It's Beal.
It just got real. This is Canyon doing what Canyon does. 1K to go. Here comes Canyon. Here comes Canyon.
Jones goes. Franklin is there. Ovett as well, making it look like it's downhill.
Wow.
Incredible performance from Ovett. 13.5 watts a kilo.
Freddie Ovett, the biggest star in esports today.
But with 3 riders in the top 10, it's looking good for Canyon. Well, the net result of that amazing win, a hat-trick of wins for the Legion of Los Angeles, is Freddie Ovett there. And that means that as we head into the final round, this is the situation at the top of the men's rankings. It is Saris and the Pros Closet who lead. They have 124 points. Just ahead, 2 points ahead of Canyon Esports. There is the rankings, as you can see. 124 for Saris, 122 for Canyon Esports. Third place PO Auto, Ceramic Speed, the winners, remember, of the two team time trials. They're there with 120. And as you can see, any one of the top 3 teams could roll out the winner of the ZRL round of season 2. It is going to be fascinating tonight. Dutch Racing, they're in 4th. Legion of Los Angeles, they're in 5th with 109. Callas Esports, there in 6th. Zwift Warriors, great performance by that squad, moving up from the community leagues. They're in 7th with 79. World of Elite Zwifters are there in 8th. Vitus Esports in 9th. And then Insured, powered by Pedal Power, rounding out the top 10. And as we just move over to the sheet number 2, we can see the teams in a little bit of difficulty. Bolter there in 11th with Kirkmare Draft, Team Swedish Swifters, Restart, Finesse, Uno X. And then as we head towards the bottom, it is going to be a battle between No Pins, Uno X, Turbo, and the KISS Racing Team. And also Aero, they're on their page on their own. They have 13 points. So the drop zone at the moment is a pretty nervous place, especially for Turbo and the KISS Racing Team. But guys, let's bring you back all on to our virtual screen. And we'll start with yourself, Hannah. It's been a wonderful season so far across both leagues. But in terms of the men's, let's talk about this, maybe the standout rider, Freddie Ovett, 3 wins, the only rider across all of the leagues to have won a hat-trick of races. He is in scintillating form. And as Dave said in the action replays back then, he is a proper superstar of esports, isn't he?
He certainly is. His rides have been absolutely exceptional. I think for him, new signing for the Legion of Los Angeles. What a signing for them. How they've been able to, I think, as a team collectively, really, up their results. The motivation is there. The way they're racing is fantastic. But Freddie Ovett, a real revelation of esports right now. Looking at the top of the standings, it's very, very tight, and you can only feel for PO Auto, Ceramic Speed. They had that bad week in round 4 where they only scored 8 points, and you can only think how tonight they might be kicking themselves, just only 4 points from the top of the league. How can they turn it around? But if they hadn't have scored such low points there, things could be a little bit different, but the motivation's on for the final night tonight.
It certainly is. And Dave, Saris in the pros closet, because they're at the top of the rankings with 1-2-4, they have been the most consistent team. But it's really difficult to call, isn't it? Saris in the pros closet aren't the best team time trial team. And when you look at the results this year, it could be anybody between Saris, Canyon, and PO Auto to win the overall. And for the first time, the influence of other teams in this team time trial trying to get in between and taking away big points from the other teams nipping at the heels of Saris is going to be a big factor. But at the same time, Saris can't affect that. They've got to focus on their own game. So much at stake and so many things to consider, Dave.
They have to love, Matt, that they're the only team that controls their own destiny. That is huge coming into this race when you talk about Saris the Pros Closet. The Director Sportives have a big job ahead of them today. And really, coming calm, cool, and collected to the start pen for Saris is going to be their major objective and ride their race. Now, I love what you're saying, though. It's been quite a road to get to this point, the 8th race of season 2, and with really 2 main challengers here. And to be fair, you're exactly right. There's only 2 teams that really have a legitimate shot of beating Saris the Pros Closet, Canyon and PO Auto. PO Auto are the undisputed kings of team time trialing, and they've got to be a little bit, feel like they've been put in the corner, to tell you the truth, because this season they've been climbing at a very quick trajectory up to the top, but then when it went bad, it went bad. And so they've got a lot to fight for, and Canyon is right in the middle. It doesn't get better than what we've got ahead of us today. If you've never seen a team time trial before, welcome to the Platinum Standard here in the ZRL.
Yeah, and if you just look back at the results, Dave, as well, I mean, the top 3 teams in round 2 over the RGV course in France, just 6 seconds split the top 3 teams. And all the top 10 teams, I seem to remember, was only 25 seconds. So the gaps here, the margins, especially on a flatter course, are going to be very, very tight indeed. And I think it's worth mentioning now at the top of the show that if we get a situation, which is mathematically possible, where the top 2 teams share the same amount of points, it's going to be the team that finished the highest up tonight that actually wins the overall. So there's a lot of things to think about. We're going to have to get the virtual abacus out. It's going to be nervous times, but it's going to be absolutely wonderful. I cannot wait to get started. But that's the men's out of the way. They'll be on second tonight after the women's. So let's have a little look back at the action from Libby's Hill from the women's race, shall I say, last week. Kick back, enjoy the women's race. I think it's going to be spectacular. The penultimate round of the ZRL Season 2. The Libby Hill after party has begun.
We've got a few outsiders. Jackie Godby, watch out for her. She is a phenomenal athlete. We can just start to see some of our first power-ups being used as we go into the first sprint.
Marina Larson on the front for TFC, but they're closing very, very quickly.
Jamie Lee Wright with the 3 points.
Gutschke is well clear now. 14 watts a kilo opened up a massive gap. What an impressive sprint that was.
48 riders in this group now, so we've lost another 7 riders.
Big acceleration there by Keller. Keller takes the win ahead of Sarah's Story. Gutschke goes again. Lethbridge is closing in, but I think she's going to take that one on the line. All of Team Hino are in this big group now as we head into the final intermediate sprint of the day. Great riding here by Hannah Peel.
1 kilometre of racing to go.
Wilkinson also there as well. Bates, Wilkinson, Gardner. It's going to be between these 3. Somebody's over the top. It looks like Godby. Somebody's coming round there. It is Jackie Godby, and she came from nowhere for Saris and the pros closet. She is the queen of Libby Hill.
Full marks to Hino. It's absolutely sensational.
Well, that was one of the most exciting races I think I've ever seen on the Zwift platform. Jackie Godby came from nowhere to take the win. And let's have a look at the top of the rankings. We know the team that are leading. They've led from race number 1. They're completely undefeated in the ZRL from the first season as well. And there it is. Hino Racing lead with 140 points. Canyon Esports in second. Canyon Esports still can mathematically win if Hino have an absolute nightmare of a night tonight. I Race Like a Girl are in third, 2024 in fourth. Then we have Cryo, insured, powered by Pedal Power. Saris and the Pros Closet, containing, of course, last week's winner, Jackie Godby. No Pins, R3R E-Racing Team, Kiss Racing Team, and the Ionian Racing Team rounding out the top 10. Let's have a look at page number 2 and look at the teams that unfortunately are in the drop zone. Remember, 3 will leave us at the end of this season. Revolution Velo, Drops Lacole and Team Tipco Silicon Valley will be the teams to leave us because Team Tipco Silicon Valley and Drops are not riding tonight, unfortunately. Then we have Team Swedish Swifters, Aero, ATP, Vision, E-Racing and the TFC, all safe for another year. Now, before we head into the women's race tonight, let's have a quick word from yourself, Dave. Hino completely and utterly dominant, aren't they? What team do you think can possibly break their stranglehold today?
I'm going to go with I Race Like a Girl. I think they're highly motivated. They've got really very little to lose and a lot to gain. They've got Captain Curie, who we've talked about, Freddie Ovett. She's another breakthrough star in the points racing segment, but she, I have a feeling, will lead her team not only inside the top 3, but really push, in this case, the mighty, mighty Hino team. With all due respect, that team does not miss a step. I don't expect them to today, but I Race Like a Girl. I think they have the best shot at it.
I mean, thanks very much, Dave. I mean, it's been a wonderful season so far, Hannah. But when we look at the team time trials in particular, we know Hino can mathematically lose it tonight, but that's doubtful. But the one team for you that could probably push Hino close tonight, because the gaps in the team time trials this year have narrowed considerably compared to season 1, haven't they?
They have. When you look at season 1, the time gaps were well over a minute, and then you come into season 2, the teams have really drilled themselves. They've got more efficient. They know where to push that power. And it's Team 2024 who have come close in round 2. They were only 16 seconds down in round 5, which was the second team time trial. They're only 22 seconds adrift from Hino. So if anyone's going to be able to challenge Hino tonight and knock them off that winning streak, it's going to be Team 2024.
Well, thanks very much indeed, guys. Well, Dave, we'll see you a little bit later on, mate, for the men's. And Hannah, let's have a look at what's in store for the riders. Talk us through the course today. It is the Greater London Flats.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. We're on the Greatest London Flat, 31.04 kilometres of racing, 164 metres of elevation, and this is the flattest route in the London world. We go over that bridge and then through the subway and into Richmond Park briefly, and then the riders come back in. We've got 3 intermediate time checks. The Mall, we have Westminster, and then the Lower Thames Street, and then the race will finish on the Mall, completing that 31.04 kilometres.
And there you can see, there's the profile. Again, it is generally flat. I think that's I wouldn't say it's a misleading profile, certainly not as spiky as that, although there are a few nasty little drags where the teams really need to think about their effort, because we've got just over a minute to go now, Hannah. I mean, today, let's be honest with you, the teams need to stick together more than ever. They need to really kind of look to generate as much power, because today, given the course, given the fact there's not too much elevation, power to weight ratio isn't going to come to the fore quite as much. It's about absolute power. Let's have a look at some of the teams here today. Pull out a couple of teams that we need to watch out for tonight, aside, of course, from the dominant squad. I know.
Yeah, well, keep an eye out for 2024 down on the bottom left of your screen. Also, keep an eye out who had a couple of good results is Cryo RDT with Beth McIver, Canyon Esports, top of the top row, and also I Race Like a Girl, the team who Dave mentioned before. Those are the teams to watch. And as ever, the red team, the women in red.
Yep, Team Hino there. They've got a full complement of riders. Interestingly, Canyon Esports, who were finished third in the opening team time trial of this season, they've only got 4 riders tonight, and they're defending, of course, that second spot on the general classification. But we know they're more than capable. And another, like I said, a very, very good call, I think, from Cryo RDT. They set a very, very fast opening split in New York. But 2024, I do agree with the rest of you that I think they're the team that could produce an upset. Dave's pick, of course, is I Race Like a Girl. But without further ado, let's head on to the start. It is Revolution Velo. They are the first team off today. Remember, the teams are off at 30-second intervals. So let's join them. I think they've already started their ride just a few seconds ago. So just head into the pens now. And Revolution Velo, the first team off. And then, unfortunately, we've got no drops Lacole and Team Tipco Silicon Valley. But there are there's the course times for the men's teams, actually, for last. That's the kind of a benchmark for the men's. The 38.07 was Canyon Esports. They won it by quite a big margin in season 1 on this particular course. But that is a good kind of benchmark time to look for the men's. But of course, it is the women's that are up. That was the women's, sorry, should I say. That's my mistake there. Well, let's head down into the pens. Around 38 to 40 minutes should be the times tonight. But do you know what? I have a funny feeling that we're going to see some very, very quick times on the course today, without a shadow of a doubt. Teams are getting better and better. The gap's closer and closer. So remember, 16 teams are going to be riding here tonight, out on course at the moment. To see the Revolution Velo there. Okay, now what's going to be the key tonight on this particular cycle? Had that little bit of running. Again, not too much elevation for them to need to blob up, so it's really like a classic team time trial formation, isn't it? Short, sharp turns on the front, maximising the power, but at the same time, maximising the rest behind.
It certainly is, generating that high power, making sure that you're not kicking through on the riders behind, making sure that when you do eventually take your turn at the front of the team time trial, that you're not accelerating too hard, meaning that the rider who's just finished their effort and coming to the back of the line, the pace line, let's say, isn't going to go out the back and sort of, when you, I know you'll know this, Matt, when you have that gassed feeling that you've just done your effort, and the last thing you want is for one of your teammates to really start to kick your head up the power, and you lose the back of the team time trial.
There's such a benefit to second slipstream of the other riders. It's making sure. It's a funny kind of balance on a course like this as we look at Revolution Velo there. Becca Ward, Catherine Hoag Sands of Norway, Morgan Schaffin, and then Sharon Stiles. That's the 4 riders that we've got data from at the moment. They do have 5 riders from out on the course, in fact. We've got Angela Bornanasi, who's also there as well. For some reason, we don't have those stats, but they're the first team off today. And they're actually kind of using a bit of a blob kind of situation here, but some of the more finely honed teams will almost ride in one straight line because they get far more benefit from the draft there, and it's finding the right sort of balance of ensuring you get a rest, but also what you don't want to be doing is resting too much. So I think we're going to see teams riding at around kind of between 130 and 140% of their FTP when they're riding on the front of these groups here. So it's almost like a 30-second interval, because on a course like this it's all about raw power, and some of the teams with heavier riders on this sort of course are actually going to be at a slight benefit, aren't they?
They certainly are, having that higher power to weight ratio, having that raw power and being able to generate that power. I think on this section of the course as well, there's plenty of straight sections. We're seeing TFC and 4 riders here: Dominique Eustace, Hannah Peel, who had a great ride last week, Marina Larson and Becky Seal in this squad, and you can just see it's starting to break up now within the team of TFC. We're seeing 2 riders just losing the wheel, so this is not great for TFC so early on in this team time trial. They've only covered. They're going to have to get to a point where they're going to have to wait for some of their riders to get back into formation, Matt.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was actually Becky Seal who was just rolling through, moving pretty well at the moment. They've got a bit of a gap on the road to close, remember, because unfortunately Drops Nicole, just worth reminding you, and Team Tipco Silicon Valley not riding tonight because of their commitments in real life. As we look at Vision E-Racing, they've got, although it's only a small team, this is a strong team, isn't it? I mean, it's a big shame for Vision E-Racing. They haven't got more than 4 riders, because Sarah Story, Charlotte Colclough and Kate Robinson, a very, very formidable trio, should I say. And Sarah Story, well, she absolutely loves this sort of really, really hard effort, doesn't she?
She does. I think 43-time Paralympian champion. She's, world champion as well, and exceptional athlete, absolutely incredible. Loves the time trials. Likewise with Charlotte Colclough as well, very experienced in real life racing, and coming into the esports world. I think Vision E-Racing having a small but strong squad. Charlotte Colclough, the sister of Katie Colclough, who was a former team time trial world champion. So some good genes in that team.
It certainly is. It's really interesting looking at that long turn, and because they've got a smaller group of riders, as we're just looking at now, Team ATP, and they've got the full complement of riders, as you can see. And ATP, very, very handy team indeed. Let's see that Cassie Nelson, Angela Roberts, Cleo Dinon, Jennifer Santoyo and Anel Radford. Now look at Santoya, who's on the front at the moment. She's putting out 320 watts because she's actually in the win, as it were, in game. And all the riders behind her are getting a benefit. So look at how many watts the others are saving. So around about 100 watts from the second position, and even more when you're sat. If you slightly blob up towards the back of this group, you'll save even more power. So a really interesting stat there. But again, what you don't want to happen is for these riders to rest too much, because that's not optimum. That they kind of want to be, it's like an under-over sort of effort that we see in a team time trial. So when you look at the power profile of these riders at the end of this discipline, it's going to be basically up and down, isn't it?
It is, and you see Angela Roberts is on the front. She's got Cleo Dinan just in her wheel, and I think when you see this kind of effort, it's actually the stronger riders do a bit of a longer effort. If you're not feeling so great, it's better to do a short effort, keeping that power, keeping the speed the same, rather than trying to match the time on the front as your teammates, so that you don't drop and dip the power, the speed, lose that momentum. And we see here Aero, just another team with only 3 riders, all 3 riders from Australia: Justine Barrow, Katie Banerjee and Emily Watts. So you can see then Barrow on the front here, Banerjee in the wheel, and a little bit of a gap to Watts, just a little bit of room to make up there.
Yeah, you could just see Justin Barrow on the front, and then as Watts lost the wheel, she dropped out of the draft, and she was actually on her own by just about half a second behind, but suddenly she had to generate a lot more power to try and get back on the wheel, and that is an example of what you don't want to happen. But they're back in formation now again, Bangery on the front, and just look at that, 245 watts. So that's 5.5 watts per kilo. Then look at the difference between Watts and Barrow, 2.8, 4.3. So a massive saving sitting on the wheel here. And as I mentioned just a couple of weeks ago, I've ridden many team time trials out on the road, but my first experience at riding a Zwift team time trial was something pretty sensational. It really is very, very nuanced indeed, as we look at the formation of the team Swedish Zwifters. And there they are in that rather lovely kit. Amanda Bolin, Anna Embring, Elin Dellin and Anna Svardstrom. 4 riders strong for this squad. I've yet to see anybody go through the first intermediate split at the moment. Just a reminder, as Hannah said at the top of the programme, the first split is at 7.6 Ks, that's in the Mall. The second split is at 16.8, that's in Westminster. And then the third split, before we head into the final on the Mall, of course, is at Lower Thames Street. So it'll be interesting to see the times that are set today. And I have a feeling, I mean, we saw the times at the top. Apologies again for my little bit of a mistake at the top there, but I have a feeling that a lot of the times are going to be beaten. I mean, 38 minutes is a kind of good benchmark, but what we've seen over this last season, teams are just getting better and better at the team time trial. Not necessarily stronger, but actually just better at the discipline itself.
I think it's completely different to what you do in the real world. So when you're riding, some of these riders, they might be on different corners of the globe, and they're only using a communication method, the likes of Discord or WhatsApp, to communicate with each other. So it's very different, but the communication aspect of them letting their teammates know when they're about to finish their effort, when they're going to peel off, when the next rider should start to increase the power to come through, really getting that part dialed is crucial. And then when you start to ride with each other week in, week out, and do more team time trials, whether they will also practice during the week between each of the Zwift Racing League, and practice the team time trials, it's only going to get better for you as a team and as a squad. And it's also about changing your riders within the squad, taking riders in who is better suited to the team time trials. So as you say, it's not necessarily the fact that they're getting faster or stronger, it's just also getting it dialed.
Exactly. And this is one of the few little drags on the course. The angle of the camera here, you can't really sense that this is a climb. This is probably one of the most significant little kickers on the circuit. It takes us up to the entrance to the Mall. They'll then swing left, and you can see one rider actually getting distance there. That's Sarah Portella. They could do with trying to hold on to her if they could. Again, look at the effort that Portella's having to put out, 315 watts, and she's actually off the back. So she needs to just try and get back in contact. It's a bit early to really lose one rider here, and that's what they've done. They've just rested up a little bit. There's a bit of a slight downhill section here, and it does look as if they're going to get back into formation, because ideally, without waiting too long, you want, especially on these flat sections, if somebody's having a bit of a hard time, Hannah, they can actually sit in reasonably easily. It's far easier to sit on a flat circuit, tuck in the wheel, do less turns than on a hilly course, for example.
They can, and you just saw the great teamwork there from Faye Faber, that she just eased off ever so slightly, brought Portella back into the frame of things in that team time trial, and it looks like that the 4 riders can get back together, and on that ever so slight downhill section, but it just shows how much power you still have to exert even when you're off the back. So want to try and keep things together, as we see No Pins R3RE Racing Team, Lou Bates, Julia Decker, Eva Marie Herring, the Zwift Academy finalist in December, and Micah van der Plas.
Yeah, they're riding pretty well as a unit at the moment, well into their course. And currently, No Pins are through. They sit 8th on the general classification. They could actually, if they have a good ride tonight, they could possibly mathematically move above Saris and the Pros Closet, but they're going to need to beat that team by 5 points. And right on cue, it is Saris and at the Pros Closet who are in a little bit of difficulty here. Looks like that group is split. Looks like Tacey is just in front. The full lineup: Annabella Stolt from Canada, Christy Tracy of the United States of America, another Canadian in the form of Esther Boville, and then we have 2 Americans, Jen Reel and Jackie Godby, of course, who took that magnificent victory last week. That really was something quite special. And they're really going to need the power of Jackie Godby, because when you look at the composition of all of the women across the board, she is a slightly bigger build. She's able to generate very, very high amounts of power. So I think we'll see Jackie Godby do a fair bit more than everybody else is. And there she is on the front at the moment, actually dropping them here. Look at this, 368, 5 watts a kilo for Jackie Godby. Everybody else behind is around 100 watts less. But they're struggling in her wake. But when you look at the lineup of Saris, I think we're going to see Godby doing a fair few turns on the front tonight.
Yeah, I think this is where it can really do the damage. You see there the raw power from Jackie Godby. As soon as she hits the front, it starts to fracture at the back for Saris and the pros closet. So they need to try and work out a good happy medium of where the power of Jackie Godby can be, not to push too much, to split things up, but maybe, as you say, do a much longer turn to try and equal out those watts, give the other riders a little bit more respite, and maybe they do shorter and harder turns.
Yeah, well, it's ensured by pedal power on the front at the moment on our screens. Jamie Clark, Jana Blichtrova, Melanie King, Mondalee Keller has been very, very active, and then Yvonne Timewell. Keller that's on the front at the moment. She's been a real animator over the last few weeks in the points races, but they've ridden very, very well as a unit. They sit in 6th position overall at the moment. Heading into the final round, they have 97 points. They're pretty safe in sixth place. In fact, 13 points is the difference between them and the team in front, so difficult for them to actually jump over the team in front. And that team is on your screen right now. It is Cryo RDT, and they have Beth McIver, the winner of 2 rounds of this series so far. She's been a real revelation. Well, we know she's actually won. She's won before, but in the style that she's won her races this year, the Scot has really come into her own, hasn't she, Hannah?
She has, and you look at that victory into Harrogate. I mean, that was tremendous, wasn't it? The way that she timed the sprint perfectly, the way she used her power up. It really is. It's great to see, and then for her to back it up again and take 2 victories, one of only 2 riders in the women's Zwift Racing League, along with Catherine Curry, another rider who's taken 2 victories. But Beth McIver, for Cryo RDT, a great addition. And the riders, Marie-Louise Hartskruag, Beth McIver, Natalie Lawrence, Steph Clutterbuck, and then we have Alice Perriman from New Zealand. So they're the 5 riders from Cryo RDT. As we see, 2024, the team who've been able to come close to high note in this season's team time trialling. In round 2, they were 16 seconds adrift. In round 5, it was 22 seconds. Just a few gaps opening up there, though, Matt. Not a bit of daylight.
It's During on the front at the moment. Jasmine During, the Canadian. They're back in formation now. Paulus is just getting into back on the wheel, and it's Kristen Kuczynski now drifting back. She's now nestled. She'll have that little bit of a rest. Not too sure what happened there, but the teams eventually are back together. Natalie Franco, another one of the Zwift Academy finalists there, riding very, very well. She'll be one of the lighter riders. She's a real pure climber. They're going to need her on some of these drags. But remember, it is the 3rd rider to count. But this is the squad, let's be perfectly honest with you, that have pushed Hino pretty close this season. Let's go back to the RGV round, that French team time trial. That was race number 2 of season 2. Hino won it with a 33.01, and 2024 only 16 seconds behind. And then in New York for the team time trial round there, the up and down course, Hino with a 28.17, 2024 only 22 seconds adrift. So I think out of all the teams, they are the one that could do it. But the tip for Dave Towle, Hannah, is this team, isn't it? I Race Like a Girl, with Amanda Wendorf, Carly Johan, Catherine Curry, another rider who has really excelled this year in season 2, winner of 2 individual rounds, Lenny Ramsey, and then Meredith Kessler. They really are a good squad. And it looks like it's Ramsey starting to struggle here. You can almost sense the pain, that sort of gap on this very fast section. This is the slightly downhill bit, isn't it? Well, the pace is going to be very, very high indeed. I wonder if she's going to manage to get back in contact, because let's look at the kind of power she's having to put out. She's having to put out 6 watts a kilo, 5.5 watts a kilo, just to get back in the wheels. Oh my, this looks very, very painful for the rider from the Netherlands, but it looks, Hannah, as if she's going to manage to claw her way back. I'm almost willing her on here.
It does. You just saw the power from Carla Johan, that they were almost matching the watts and the watts per kilo, and Lenny Ramsey is clawing herself back on. It did look like just moments ago that Catherine Curry was dropping back from the team to try and help Ramsey back on, and then probably sense a little bit of danger that this is a little bit risky for me and the team if I drop back too much. Well, let's hope that Ramsey can get a little bit of respite sitting in the wheels as we look to Canyon Esports, the team sitting in second overall. Bexy Dew, Stephanie Sidlick, Kirsten Pole, Cecile Lejeune and Mary Wilkinson, Scary Mary as they call her. But formidable rider, great amount of watts, and this team I think will be one to watch. I think they will be pushing it to the limit to Heino today.
Indeed, well, Mary Wilkinson, she'll like this sort of effort as well. We should be there's the fastest first few K. It's Heino Racing. Well, that's the 5 kilometre point, so an extra little time check there as well. So that's 5Ks. Well, unsurprisingly, Heino are actually leading 6:55, 3 seconds ahead of Canyon. So Canyon having a very, very good ride indeed. I Race Like a Girl not too far behind. In 2024, the team that we thought would push them close lost nearly 20 seconds in the first 5K. So that, to me, is a little bit of a surprise. And we're just going through the first split now. This is the mall. This is the split at 7.6 kilometres. Hopefully we will get some extra little time checks through for you as soon as we can. But look at that for a tight-knit unit. They really know how to ride. Alice Lethbridge, Caroline Williams, Cecilia Hansen, Louise Huback, Vicky Whitelaw. You can hardly put a gap between any of these riders. If they're not on each other's wheel, they're just slightly overlapping, which gives you that benefit as well. So they really understand how to generate high power, but more importantly, they know how to ride as a complete unit and save as much energy as possible, don't they, Hannah?
They do. Look at the numbers from Cecilia Hansen there, just over 6.1 watts per kilo. And the riders in the wheels, Caroline Williams really making the most of the respite and making the recovery. Only 3.7 watts per kilo at 184 watts. So it's they really do have it dialed. They've all got the Aero helmets on. They've got the disc wheels on. And just keeping that formation ever so tight.
No, they are looking good, and it's great when we do get that data on the screen just to show the difference between riding on the front and sitting in the wheels. And it's looking like they are riding excuse me, around 30-second intervals, again about 150 watts saving sitting on the wheel, and they'll be all communicating as well. Do excuse me for one moment. They'll be communicating, as we said, via Discord or via WhatsApp. And it's quite an interesting experience, but it's so important that they do communicate, especially as we get deeper into the race, Hannah, when fatigue starts to play a part as well. This is never over half an hour, and within that, although it's a relatively short, intense sort of effort, sometimes if you're not on a good day, you've got to tell your teammates just either don't worry about me, leave me behind, or I'm just going to give one long extra pull on the front before I'm gone. There's going to be all sorts of communication, and in an effort like this, when these riders are spread all over the world, that communication really, really crucial, isn't it?
It is, and for something like this, I mean, you say that it's only just over 30 minutes, but 30 minutes when you're pushing consistently the power that's needed in a team time trial, I mean, it really does hurt the legs, hurt the body. It's exceptionally hard to stay on the limit for that amount of time. So although you might not think it seems a long time, it's incredibly hard. And I think today, Canyon Esports really are pushing Heino to the limit. Only 3 seconds, or just under 4 seconds, should I say, after 5 kilometres. Here at the next time check, Canyon Esports only 7 seconds behind, so it's not all going to Heino's way. They really do have to keep this formation tight. They need to keep the power. They also not need to panic as they if they're seeing this data on the screen, if they're having this information relayed to them through their sports director in the virtual team car. I think the worst thing that a team could do is panic and actually go too hard too soon and really blow towards the end of the team time trial map.
Exactly, and as I said, only 7.6 Ks down. Well, that's where that check was, but they are leading. But a very impressive ride by Canyon, and that impressive ride by Canyon I think is even more so because they've only got 4 riders. So they have Bexy Dew, Kirsten Pole, Cecile Lejeune and Mary Wilkinson, as opposed to the team that are leading. And there again, confirmation of the season 1 course times. Heino with 41.39, Aero with 42.50, so some slightly bigger gaps. We've got no pins with the 42.51, 2024 the 43.08, the same time as I Race Like a Girl, and they have ensured power by pedal power and then a little bit further down. So, and Canyon Esports, that is interesting. They didn't have a great ride at all on this course with a 45.03, but the way that they're riding tonight, they are riding superbly, aren't they? I mean, they're second place at the moment, and they're putting this team under a bit of pressure. But as we've seen before, they'll be getting the same data through, won't they? They'll know, of course, they want to focus on their own ride, but they'll know that Canyon aren't too far behind, and they are so well drilled. Well, I think we've got information here that No Pins have just passed KRT, which is a great ride by No Pins. The KISS Racing team have been caught by No Pins, who are clearly on a very, very good ride indeed. Wonderful stuff. So good performance here by No Pins, who at the first intermediate split were in 5th place. So great ride by them tonight.
Yeah, you can just see the team of KRT just in the background, and No Pins R3R. The team of Lou Bates, who's just coming through, a former national hill climb champion, comes through to do her turn, and Gutschka just passes Bates. So Bates, a very, very short turn for her, and it just seems maybe that they've overtaken KRT. Kind of, they have to get that formation back together now. Van der Plas just leaving a little bit of a gap, but they need to get things back on terms. Gutschka doing a great long turn. And now I think they're getting that formation back as Bates starts to come back towards the front. Herring in the wheel of Gutschka.
Yeah, the other team as well, that they've just passed, of course, KISS Racing team. We now have them in their sights as well, so they might actually up their game. And we did see, I think it was in round 2, once the team got past, although they're not allowed, of course, in the rules to sit in the slipstream of the other teams, it doesn't mean they can't up their game and try and go past. And it looks to me here that KISS Racing team, they're now not dropping back, they're holding that gap. And I'm wondering, we'll see a little bit of a race here, something that we do quite often see. But of course, they've lost 30 seconds, but they're intending it clearly not to lose any more by the way they're riding. And just a bit of an update for you. My mistake. Canyon Esports do have a full complement of riders with Lejeune, Paul Wilkinson, Sidlick and Bexy Dew. That's just an error on my start sheet. So Canyon have started with a full complement of riders, and as I mentioned before, are setting a very, very good time. At the first intermediate split, they were in 2nd position, just a smidge over 7 seconds behind Heino, who were the race leaders at the moment. And we continue to focus on Voy Kacha Gutschka, just at the back of that group at the moment. This team opting of all for rather colourful disc wheels. And generally we'll get all the teams choosing the same sort of equipment. And it looks like we've got another coming together. This looks like this is Cryo RDT at the moment. And I wonder for Cryo RDT, they're catching insured at the moment. That's a very, very good ride by Cryo RDT. They are absolutely flying along this course.
They are, and just going through past Ensured. Perryman just needs to get onto the wheel. It looks like 2 riders now, Lawrence and Perryman, are just losing the wheel. Just need to get through Ensured and get back into that formation. McIver sitting in 2nd wheel, and the 5 riders all back together now. So very slick overtake there from Cryo RDT. They had a fantastic result in round 5, which was the 2nd team time trial of this series. Clutterbuck goes through, and McIver, the rider who's taken 2 individual victories in the points races, does her turn now.
And as you said, Hannah, they did do a good performance just the other week. And I said, buoyed, of course, by both of those wins, as you just described by McIver. They are really punching well above their weight. And remember, just a reminder, at the first intermediate split, although they are losing Perryman at the moment, so maybe Perryman getting a little bit of a couple of ride-ons there. Remember, if you are watching this, please get involved in the action, get involved in the comments, tell us what you think about season 2 of the Zwift Racing League, and also get on your Zwift companion app as well and fire these riders some ride-ons, because Alice Perryman here is going through a whole lot of hurt. It's such a cruel discipline when you get distance from your team, and it does look to me as if it's all over for Perryman. Not great to see, but she won't be the only casualty today, will she, Hannah?
No, she certainly won't. And I think, you know, when you get to that effort and you go so deep, there's no coming back from when you go into the red, let's say. But it does look like Ensured, powered by pedal power, they might have just got an extra little bit of motivation after that overtake from Cryo RDT. It looks like they've had a bit of an injection of pace. They're coming back to Cryo RDT, so it'll be interesting to see if actually we have another re-overtake But for Perryman, I think that's her day done for the team of Cryo RDT in the blue kit as we go back to 2024. And it looks like they've lost Lieberman, Rachel Lieberman, from their team, so only down to 4 riders. Kulczynski on the front, Matt.
Yeah, Kulczynski riding hard on the front. And when you look at the composition of this particular team, it is Kulczynski who I think will do the slightly longer turns on the front. I mean, she is the #1 Zwift female rider in the world at the moment in esports. She's been so consistent this year. She's had a great team around her, but she will love this. She's got the bit between her teeth, and they've had 2 very solid second places. That was a long turn. During now takes over on the front. Be interesting to see what time they set at the intermediate split, Hannah, because on the first intermediate split they were in 6th place. They'd conceded 26.41 seconds, but some teams often will start off a little bit slower and have a real specific strategy. As we look at the team of Swedish Zwifters, they've headed out of the centre of London now, and they're going to do a brief loop in the Surrey Hills, although luckily for these riders, they won't take in any of the major hills at all. They'll just do some of the flatter roads, then they'll head back into the city centre. As we look again at No Pins R3R, they're just heading back in, or heading out into this loop, and there we go. That's the current situation at the Westminster split, but there are a few teams to pass by. So No Pins R3R 8.42 seconds quicker than Team Swedish Zwifters. And Saris, look at that, very, very close indeed. Only half a second between them at 8.84. Bit of a drop then to the Ionian race team at 26 seconds, and it's pretty close again just behind them. 29 seconds for Aero, 35 for TFC, sharing pretty much the same time with KISS. ATP in 8th, then Vision at nearly a minute, and then Revolution just behind them. So again, 16.8k with that particular time. So that's at around half distance though, as we look at the team Swedish Zwifters at the moment. And it looks like they are now down to 4 riders as well. And I think this course, they're actually catching Aero at the moment, Hannah.
Yeah, great ride from Team Swedish Zwifters. You can see their time there of only 35 seconds down from Cryo RDT. So Svardstrom doing a strong effort on the front. And again, another team, all 4 riders in great formation here. As Bolin just starts to come through to do her effort. But this is, great from this 4-rider team.
There's not too many gaps between that squad at all, is there? Just little ones open up. But it really does teach you how to kind of measure your effort. I think when you're riding in close formation, knowing how much you kind of need to save, you really understand how to feather the pedals. I think it's a kind of a word we don't often kind of use, but the difference between just 5 watts, just like backing off ever so slightly, then pressing on a little bit, because as soon as you put too much pressure down or back off, that's when you either get dropped or you surge in front. So it's a real lesson, isn't it, Hannah, on how to gently increase and decrease the pressure on the pedals, and that takes a lot to learn, doesn't it?
It does. I mean, I know we've probably all done it on Zwift, that when you do see yourself either getting dropped or you want to up the power, you surge too quickly, you exert too much power, and then you find yourself, the gap's opening, so you back off, and then next minute, it's a back and forth rotation. But the more you ride, and for these riders, the more they practice in their team time trial, they can really dial this discipline. And it is, even in the real world, it's a hard discipline to crack. We see a lot of teams putting a lot of effort into practicing the team time trial, the equipment, the formation, the power, actually looking at the power that you're exerting on your on the power meter, on your computer, on the platform of Zwift, and also talking to each other, saying this is how many watts, or knowing what your threshold is or your FTP is. It looks like
look at this.
I race like a girl.
Of course, 2024. That is a big surprise. At the intermediate split, the second intermediate split of the day at Westminster. Hino are the quickest. Canyon Esports in second at 14:47. Cryo in third. I Race Like a Girl in fourth. And they were nearly 20 odd seconds ahead of 2024. They've obviously got them in the sights. Remember, it's only 30-second intervals between these teams, but that is a heck of a ride by this squad here. very, very strong indeed. And I must admit, well, fair play to Dave. Dave tipped this squad to perhaps cause a bit of an upset. They're still 24 seconds adrift, pretty much the same time as Cryo RDT, but I did not expect them to catch Team 2024. That is a superb performance.
A standout ride. I Race Like a Girl. This is fantastic stuff. Big surprise from 2024 though to see them get caught so early on, but Johan just did a formidable ride there on the front. She peels off, her ride is done. She gets into the slipstream of Kessler. Curry, the former professional rider, she was a former American champion. She's won stages in the Tour de l'Ord. And just look at, we see Catherine Curry picture in picture now. Keeping those revs per minute very high, 98 revs per minute.
Yeah, she's, as you said, Hannah, she's so experienced, isn't she? And the thing I do like about this is this about racing on Zwift, whatever the discipline, points race, team time trials, is the fact that we've got riders that let's speak about Kristen Kulczynski, exclusively rides on Zwift. Doesn't ride outdoors at the moment. I'm sure she will in the future. And then you've got Catherine Curie, one of the most experienced professionals out there, a remarkable career on the road, and has come onto the platform and has got it absolutely dialed. It's wonderful to see people with different backgrounds coming together and using their kind of strengths. But so good to see such an experienced rider like Catherine Curie. She has got Zwift absolutely dialed, hasn't she? And she's going to be a really formidable part of this team. So impressed. I'm sure Dave must have had some underground information. They were riding to a very, very high schedule today, because that's the thing. I mean, you don't just go into a team time trial like this and just ride flat out. You have a plan, you have a kind of pacing strategy, and I'm wondering if what the difference is tonight between I Race Like a Girl and particularly Team 2024, because this is the performance of the night, I think, from a team that have won individual rounds but haven't performed quite as strongly in the team time trial, and they have got it together on one of these little drags, putting out some big power at the moment. You can tell the rider on the front, it's Lenny Ramsey doing a turn on the front, 327 watts at the moment, a couple of little ride-ons there. Catherine Curie never too far behind, but big savings, and they've already lost. No, they've still got 5 riders in the mix, I think, I Race Like a Girl, but this is an absolute superb performance. I don't know if it's going to be enough to actually upseat Heino, because Heino have actually pulled another 12 seconds out, and at the second intermediate split, Hannah, were 24 seconds to the good, so they are not losing a beat, are they?
No, they're not. I mean, tremendous job. I would love to be a fly on the wall in their team meetings and also during the race to see how I Race Like a Girl communicate, who's, making that plan. And as you said before, how it translates for Catherine Curie to race well on the road, a former professional with the caliber of such a rider, then translating her fitness and her riding onto Zwift into this team time trial. How is she able to give her experience to her teammates? But this is a fantastic job. It's very, very close between them and Cryo RDT though. But another team pulling out the stops tonight, Canyon Esports, who, as we saw in the previous split, were from Heino.
No, well, Canyon Esports look as if they might actually be catching the team that started in front of them. You can just see in front there, Canyon Esports now on the screen. It looks like they might be catching I Race Like a Girl, who have all, no, this could be 2024 that they're catching, because I Race Like a Girl started in front of them. That is the situation. So here, Canyon Esports absolutely flying, but just a few hundred meters behind this team will be Heino, because the gap's only 30 seconds, and Heino now are about 25 seconds in front of Canyon. So we could see all these teams merging on the road. They must for Canyon Esports, they're putting in a great performance here, but I think they could be caught very, very shortly by the team that started behind them, Heino. But in the meantime, Canyon look like they are going to catch 2024, and you can just see the little blob of riders in front of them.
Well, there's nothing better than when you see a team in front of you in a time trial or a team time trial, is there? That you have that motivation, you have that carrot to chase. The one thing is now that these riders, they need to make sure that they actually keep it together. They don't, exert so much effort that actually they split the formation. They, see a few cracks within the team. You can see all 5 riders are together. And it is Mary Wilkinson on the front, Bexy Jew. She's a part-time worker in the army, in the reserves, and they're just going into the underground. And it is, by the looks of it, I can see flashes of blue. I think it is 2024 who Canyon Esports are about to catch.
Indeed. Well, that's the second team. This hasn't happened, I can tell you what, 2024 have never been caught by two teams before. It's just one of those things. It happens in racing. You have good evenings, you have bad evenings. They're certainly not on an awful ride. They still could finish in the top 6, but devastatingly strong performance here by Canyon Esports. But we know not too far behind them, and the catch has now been made. And there, look at that. Dew, Sidlick, Paul, Lejeune and Wilkinson absolutely romping around this course at the moment, but at the second intermediate split they were still 24 seconds behind Team Hino. And there we go, the catch has been made in the underground section. What a cruel place to catch a team on the steepest section, well, one of the steepest sections of road on Zwift. It's around 20% on that bit. But Hino are going to be breathing down the necks of Canyon now. So it looks as if 2024 are going to be caught by Hino first, and then Hino should be just coming around the corner. They're just out of sight at the moment, but what an absolutely scintillating race we've got here tonight, Hannah, on the streets of London. You couldn't have written this script. So dominant are Hino at the moment.
It certainly is, and as you just said, what a cruel place to make a catch on the steepest section of the course. I mean, that is, really cruel, as if your legs weren't hurting enough that you've just made the catch, you start to see some gaps open up, and then you have Hino, breathing down your neck just behind. But great effort there from Canyon Esports. Hino just keeping it together, still 5 riders. We have Louise Huback up towards the front. Lethbridge only pushing 139 watts, so really making the most of being at the back of this group. Whitelaw just dropping to the back, and Williams now towards the front, 287 watts, and you can just see almost all the heart rates ever so similar. It just shows how much effort and how hard this team time trial is. But one thing's for certain, they're not letting this formation go, Matt.
Oh no, they're not. That's exactly what sort of cut across you there, Hannah. I was just kind of looking at how tight their formation is. If they're not in a line, they're in a little blob here. They really have got their formation absolutely dialed. And as you said, all saving a lot of energy when they're not on the front. And when we have the stats below, it does show you how much power is being saved as we look at Team Swedish Zwifters here. They're just about to catch Team Aero. So great ride a little bit further down from Team Swedish Zwifters. So they've caught the team that started 30 seconds in front of them. I don't think we've commentated on the team time trial, Hannah, where there's so many catches have been made, so the gaps are going to be quite big today. And there is the Thames Street intermediate split. Hino haven't gone through there yet, but I Race Like a Girl lead with 32. Cryo RDT at 16 seconds. Well, Canyon Esports have now taken that slot, but it looks as if it is Hino now. They're going to catch Team 2024. So Hino now about to make the catch on 2024. I mean, 2024 will go through that intermediate split very, very shortly indeed, but I wouldn't have thought they'd have expected to be caught by two teams tonight. What a dominant performance. Hino absolutely romping around this course, and they go through a really, really quite a different speed there. That was quite plain to see, wasn't it? There we go, Hino racing 32.02 at intermediate split 3. 19 seconds ahead of Canyon Esports. So Canyon Esports have actually gone quicker over this last section. How do they pull back 5 seconds? Can they do it? We've got around 6 kilometers to go. Can Canyon find something else to finally beat the dominance of Hino?
Well, it's looking very likely that they can come close. One thing's for sure is Hino need to make sure that they don't rest on their laurels and ease up too early. But I have to say, Matt, when I look at them on this side on camera, Hino look mean. They look like they mean business. They look scary to look at. You just see their stealth look with the Aero helmets on, and they can see Canyon in their sights. But this is a motivation for Canyon to actually make sure that they keep in that formation. There's only 6 kilometers or 7 kilometers of racing remaining, so it's all out now for Canyon Esports. But now the motivation is for Hino to try and catch the final team on the road, who's in front of them. Sorry.
Yeah, as you said, it's cruel on this particular section, on the kind of twistier sections of this course. And this, we're just running now essentially from the city of London, running parallel with the River Thames, and there's this really long straight bit of road where you can see the teams in front of you 30 seconds, 40 seconds in front along this particular stretch, and you can just see in the top right of your screen the little kind of pixelated blob of the team in front of them, and that is Canyon Esports. They actually have pulled out 5 seconds, should I say. The first intermediate split was, the last intermediate split was 19, the one before that was 14, so High Note slowly but surely are eating into the lead of the team in front, and now sit around 11 or 12 seconds behind. And the big question is if they catch him or if they don't catch him. I think now, with Hino having the sights of Canyon out in front, I think it's going to be, I don't think they'll drop back much further. I think Canyon may be caught, but they'll fight with every single inch of their bodies, won't they, to try and stay away here.
They certainly will. We saw they were caught in round 2 when we were on the RGV route in France, and actually it did Canyon a world of good. Actually, it kept that motivation there. That, you know, they weren't demoralised that they were caught by Hino, I think it was that day. You know, it actually spurred them on, motivated them, and they had a great result nonetheless. But I think they've got a good sports director in the virtual team car with Reese Howell. So for Canyon Esports, they'll keep that momentum going. And here we see Revolution Velo. They were the first team off as they go under that Flamme Rouge. 1 kilometre of this team time trial remaining with the 4 riders. They still have all 4 riders: Styles, Shafin, Sarnes and Ward.
Yeah, they're just coming into the final, aren't they? Just down on the red tarmac, that special red tarmac, not far away from Buckingham Palace, which will just be on their right hand side. But these riders won't be looking at the Queen's residence, they'll be looking at the finish line as they swing left, because the finishing straight will open up very, very shortly indeed. They've only got around 400 metres to go before they cross the finish line. They've done a solid performance here at Revolution Velo, and difficult for them because no teams in front of them to kind of catch either, with the gap with the, well, no teams in front, of course they're the first team off, but nobody's actually caught them here, so they will be the first team to finish, and it won't be very long indeed. So very, very respectable ride here by Revolution Velo. Down to 4, as you said there, Hannah: Ward, Hogue Sands, Chaffin and Styles, and the finishing line will be coming up very, very shortly indeed. Just about 200 metres to go now for Revolution Velo. The agony will soon be over. Done and dusted will be season 2 for Revolution Velo. They're about to cross the line now, and the first official time will indeed be set. So Revolution Velo cross the line. Their team time trial is done, and very briefly indeed they will be the virtual leaders. But that would change very, very shortly indeed, because a couple of teams here are romping down the circuit. TFC, well, Hannah, they have really closed the gap. This is an impressive ride by TFC.
It is, considering that we had Team Tibco, Silicon Valley Bank, Notstar and Drops Lacole, that TFC have really pulled out the stops to Revolution Velo, who were in front of them, and a great ride from this trio. Eustace crosses the line first to stop the clock for TFC, and not far behind we have our next team coming in, who is ATP. All 5 riders for this team, and they have the finish line in the sights on the mile now, Matt.
They certainly do. They're all coming together. Remember, it's the 3rd rider to count to cross the line. So great riding here by ATP. Still got 4 riders left in there. 5 riders left in their squad, should I say, as one more emerges onto the screen. So great bit of team riding there. They finish pretty much as a unit. We'll soon get the time on the board. So TFC lead with a 44.03. And now Team Swedish Zwifters, yeah, well, they've really come up quick. I think they might set the new fastest time, but they've only got 3 riders left, but they are going very, very quickly up them all. I think this could be the new quickest team off the mark.
Well,
so Swedish Zwifters cross the line.
If you're going to utilise your riders, finish with 3, and we get our next team, which is Aero, coming across the line here with the 3 riders. They stop the clock. Where are they going to finish? And now we have the team of Vision, the team with Charlotte Colclough, Sarah Story and Robinson, Matt.
Yeah, Vision, I think, have set a very, very quick time here. Well, they've actually been caught, unfortunately, by Aero. So Vision, the Team Swedish Zwifters have the quickest time so far with 43.03. Aero at 39.39. Very close from ATP. Less than a second between those. So Revolution just crossing the line there at 1 minute and 57 seconds. So fair gap back to the 5th place team at the moment. Vision, well, they're in 6th at 2:10. And the next team home, the next team out on the course. I race like a girl. They've set some very, very quick times. This is the Ionian Racing team just coming in to finish their team time trial. There they go. Let's have a look at the time for the Ionian Racing team. The team sitting in the top 10 at the moment. And no pins, so a clutch of teams here, Hannah, finishing very, very closely behind. So we'll get there. This is the KISS Racing team. They currently sit in 9th position at the moment. Thundering down the finishing straight. A nice tight formation from them. The team that, of course, have been racing in the various iterations of the leagues we've had for about 4 or 5 years now. One of the founding kind of fathers, for want of a better word, or founding mothers, should I say, for the women's team. Been here a long, long time. And a solid performance. And KRT and Saris finishing in almost like a mini peloton there, Hannah.
Yeah, we've got a right cluster of teams all coming in. As the next team coming in is Cryo RDT, a team of Beth McIver, Hartz, Lawrence, Clutterbuck and Perryman. We lost Perryman before, but we saw them do a tremendous catch earlier on. And you can just see the last little sprint and exertion of energy to the line. Where is Cryo RDT? No pins R3R. It's currently fastest with 42.46, but what can Cryo do? Can they knock them off the top spot?
Well, Cryo have indeed. It's Insured Power by Pedal Power, so Cryo NDT 26 seconds to the good. What can Insured Power by Pedal Power do? They cross the line 5 strong, very, very closely fit. And now this is I Race Like a Girl. Cryo RDT have the quickest time at the moment, 42.20. I Race Like a Girl with only about 40 metres to go now. They cross the line, 4 riders strong, solid performance by then. What will then, and it's Canyon crossing the line as well, so we hardly got that time on the board. And Canyon, so I Race Like a Girl take the lead. That I think is going to be Canyon. And now, wow, Hino, absolutely sensational stuff here. These teams finishing so closely together. Canyon Esports briefly held the lead, and now Hino racing with a 41.05, obliterating that. So remember, they are not the last team to finish because they've overtaken a couple of teams out on the road. But Hino, with that given the fact they actually with the last team to start, so we've still got 2024 to finish. But Hannah, Hino dominant again. What can you say about Hino? And this is Team 2024. It will still be a pretty respectable time by that squad. They crossed the line there, unfortunately caught by Hino. Canyon out on the road today, so we'll get their times up very, very shortly indeed. But no doubt about the winners today, Hannah, and that is Hino. They have made it, well, 8 wins in Season 1 back-to-back, and then 8 wins in Season 2 here as well. There we go, 25 seconds it was ahead of Canyon Esports. So very, very solid performance by then. Dave's tip of I Race Like a Girl setting the course on fire today with 3rd place at 46 seconds. Then we have Cryo RDT in 4th at 1:15. No Pins R3R, another very good performance by them at 1:41. Saris and the Pros Closet 2 seconds further adrift in 6th. Team Swedish Zwifters Insured by Power by Pedal Power 2024 in 9th with at 2:07, and then the Ionian Racing team rounding out the top 10 at 2:32. So again, no real surprises. Let's have a look at little page 2, just a look further down. Aero in 11th there at 2:37. ATP KISS in 13th. Then we have TFC at 2:57. Revolution Velo in 15th at 3:55. And then rounding out the 16 teams that started tonight, Vision E Racing at 4:08. So, I mean, we're kind of running out, Hannah, of superlatives for the Hino race team. What can anybody do? I mean, they are so dominant, they're so strong, they're so consistent, but boy, can they race as a unit. It's like poetry in motion watching them team time trial.
It is, and the fluidity of the pedaling and the team and that formation in the team time trial. I mean, as you say, running out of superlatives just to describe them, it's absolutely incredible. Ride though for of the night tonight, you have to say Canyon Esports, fantastic ride, 25 seconds down on Hino. Brilliant from them, but also I Race Like a Girl. Dave, great tip for them. They pulled out a great amount of time to cryo RDT. They were locked more or less on the same time, so they pulled out an extra 25 seconds. So fantastic for I Race Like a Girl.
No, it was a wonderful performance there. Dave, did you get some inside information, mate? Because we all thing is we know they're a solid unit, but they really did pull something very special out of the bag tonight.
You know, no inside information, Matt, but just the capacity that Catherine Curie is. I was mentioning off mic that she came back from a broken hip less than a year ago. She is a really motivated human being, and she's lifting up the other riders on that squad. Ramsey, for example, they've really come a long way. Watch out for them in season 3. I got to give credit, though, Hannah. You're exactly right. Hino is amazing, men or women. This is the best team in esports, and that's how we keep score out here, Matt, is using this team format that's so exciting. So congratulations to Hino. That was certainly I won't forget what you've done over the first couple of seasons. How long can they keep that going, Matt?
Exactly. Well, I think they've set the bar. I mean, you couldn't set the bar higher, can you? They've got a 100% win rate across the board. I mean, they're so consistent. They're clearly dialed as a unit. And as we said before, there's a lot of teams that I think, and a lot of just observers, that the team time trial on Zwift is it's a unique proposition. There's so much to learn from, so much data to mine and look at. But they're a team that I think a lot of other teams are going to look to and try and learn from, because the gaps are coming down. I mean, last season, the gaps were a minute. They're now half a minute, 25 seconds and less. So I don't think they'll necessarily have it their own way, but at the moment they are the dominant squad in women's racing, and fair play to them because they have set the bar very, very high indeed. Well, Hannah, thanks very much indeed. We'll be speaking to you a little bit later at the end of the programme. We've got another race, Dave, haven't we? It's the men, and they're off in a few minutes' time. What are your thoughts on the teams to watch out for tonight with the men? Because we've seen the past season very, very close indeed, and the top 3 places overall are up for grabs here.
Yeah, well, and I'm not going to backpedal. That won't get you anywhere, will it, in this sport? But what I will say is watch out for PO Auto today, as far as they are a little tender. They don't have Full Dagger and they don't have Muff Racing. And these have been 2 of the cornerstones for that squad. Now, Michael Knudsen is still there, the Danish Everesting champion, the virtual Everest, absolutely amazing story. And we'll talk about him during the race. But they're going to be bringing some new talent on board. Now, you never know what we're going to see with PO Auto today. Canyon, again, such a strong team with so much depth. They're certainly going to be up there. But I'm really looking at Legion of LA. Maybe they come out of the woodwork for us here. We've talked so much about Freddie. He's, again, one of the greatest that we have in this generation, but the team is much deeper than they get credit for, or at least, kind of when you hear people talking about this team, it's Freddie. Well, there's a lot more here than Freddie. Tyler Williams, I saw that Corey Williams just cut off his beard. That's how serious he is. He's not even, he's not going to play around. So, yes. So that beard had its own zip code, I heard. So you get a look at the teams that are going to be really contesting out here. And, I mean, I'll remember Vitas. They had a breakthrough ride in the team time trial. We talked about Kirkmeyer doing the same thing. Who's going to be shocking us today? And will Saris the Pros Closet? Because, Matt, to be fair, much like Hino, they've been incredibly consistent throughout this entire season. They're the one team that hasn't missed a step. They've got one more to take here.
Yeah, I've got a funny feeling that Kirkmeyer could do another ride. I mean, they like the kind of flatter circuits. I mean, they put in a big surprise on the opening team time trial of this season with a second place. Let's have a look at the results of last season's race on this very course, just so we can get a bit of a gauge of some of the times. There we go. Canyon Esports took it with a 38.07, and that's quite a big margin, considering the kind of races we've seen this year. I'm not expecting the margins to be quite as close. Saris was second there with a 38.28. PO Auto Ceramic Speed, they've got a different lineup as Dave's just gone into with a 38.32. Bolt Race team. They haven't quite had the same strength this year. Aero there, Draft, Callas, Insured, powered by Pedal Power. Dutch Racing. I think Dutch Racing, powerful squad. They could do a good ride today. Vitus Esports 2, World of Elite Zwifters, Kiss Racing Team, and then Turbo. Of course, looking at that lineup, there are a few teams like Zwift Warriors, for example, that have come up from the community leagues, and also the Kirkmare team. They're going to be my outlier team, I think, for today, Dave. Although you can't really call them outliers when they've had a second place already this season, but they clearly do favour these kind of flatter circuits. And they're a team that I think Saris and the Pros Closet will want to see perform well. Even maybe, as long as they don't beat Saris, they'll want to get in between Canon Esports and PO Auto. This is going to be an absolutely superb race today. Great women's event, dominated again by Heino. But I think this one, Dave, is going to be closer to call. There's going to be some very, very nervous teams on the line today as we see our first team off. And the first team off is Team Aero. They're sitting in a 21st position at the moment. They've only got 13 points, Dave. They are going to be relegated, sadly, to the community division. But they're a team that we're familiar with, and I'm sure they'll bounce back.
A lot of credit to this team, Matt. They race in a very inconvenient time zone, certainly. This is Harley Moore, Nick Squilari, Benjamin Hill, Stinis Campe, and Mark O'Brien rolling out 5 strong. So good luck to our Australian contingent here. Matt, it's really an interesting scenario when you look at the top of the table here, because as we said at the show, beginning of the show, Saris the Pros Closet is the only team that controls their own destiny. If they win the season. Now, it's wide open when you look at PO Auto, Ceramic Speed, and Canyon. Canyon a little bit closer, but it's going to be, as you said, Dutch Racing, maybe Legion of LA, Callas, Kirkmire, who knows? But if these two teams, talking about PO and Canyon, if they don't get some help with teams having outstanding rides, it's not enough to just beat Saris. You need 3 teams or 5 teams to beat Saris if you're in this comeback position. That's where, when you look at it right now, Saris the Pros Closet is locked and loaded. They are looking today to just do what they do, ride consistently. And Matt, they've done it all season long. I would not bet against them out here today. We're in with Kiss Racing now. Team starting on 30-second intervals as we get a look at the third rider is where your time is going to be taken off of. Matt, I'm going to imagine that by the time this one is paid, there's going to be people in hospital passing a kidney stone that are in less pain than some of our 3rd and 4th riders out here trying to get across the line, because this is going to be brutal how hard they're going to be pushing themselves out here today.
Yeah, the team time trial is a very, very challenging discipline, especially if you're on a bad day. As we look at Team Turbo, the 3rd team off the ramp tonight, they sit in 19th position on the general rankings. They're looking for a good ride tonight. They can quite possibly move out of the drop zone if they finish 6 or 7 places in front of No Pins R3R. So although mathematically it's going to be a challenge, they are going to throw absolutely everything at this race tonight. Andrew Evans, Hayden Warner, Jack Bardi, William Zugab, and Tanner Ward, they are going to try. I mean, they're riding tightly at the moment. That is the ideal kind of formation. Not much of a gap in between. You can just see Hayden Warner sticking out 500 watts, and just behind, they're saving about 150, even 200 watts. So roughly kind of estimating what these guys' FTPs are going to be. They're going to be doing turns on the front, Dave, around between 130 and 140% of their FTP. But Turbo, the race for them tonight is about survival against this team. No Pins are through. If they have a bad night, they're in the drop zone. So an interesting battle at the bottom of the table, Dave, as well as at the top 2.
Yeah, there's no doubt No Pins is highly motivated. This is going to be, and it's what's so much fun about these leagues, right, is that there's going to be trajectories that you have. Some teams are on their way up. Other teams are looking to stay up in the Premier League. And that's going to be quite a battle out here today. So No Pins R3R, a very well-known team in the world of esports. Liam Bard, Neil Richards, Chris Smart, Zach Harner, and Mark Steinley making up this squad. They look like they're working very well together here in the early going. You know, Matt, you watch this now. These guys are very, very close to having cracked the code as far as the precision. We talked about the 3 Ps, right? Precision, power, and patience. Well, for the strongest riders, and Hannah does such a great job describing that moment where you're on the front front here. The stronger riders take longer pulls. We saw a little bit of trouble with the Sarah's to Pros Closet women's team where Jackie Godby was so strong she was blowing her team up. So it became almost a little counterproductive, Matt, sometimes when you have one rider who's 10% better than any other rider on the team. That's challenging. And so what the director's job is to keep that rider on the front longer, taking deeper, harder pulls, but not necessarily going faster, because Matt, these teams are on the A-train schedule. They are moving very, very quickly.
They certainly are. This is a Restart Racing. Daniel Jambrozic, Dean Cunningham of Scotland, Hal Blackburn, Jaden Jager, and Luke Goulibiot of Canada. They've got a really nice formation going at the moment. You can just see Jager on the front. Look at Jager's stats. They are 7.1 watts a kilo. And the rider just behind, although he's rolling through now, you can just see Jager. There was a moment there when Jager literally just backed off the pedals. There is a kind of almost the opportunity to get like a microsecond just to dispense with some of that lactic acid. Jager, almost like in a team time trial on the track, a team pursuit. Obviously you can't freewheel on a track bike, but dropping back dramatically and then getting back onto the wheel now. So Jam Rozic on the back at 312 watts, and then the Canadian on the front. A disparity and a discrepancy, or a difference, should I say, Dave, of around 200 watts, which is kind of near 80 to 100% saving, which is absolutely astonishing. Just shows you how important it is to get it right.
Yeah, absolutely, Matt. You know, one of the most complicated things about riding in a breakaway is going hard, but not so hard that you put yourself in danger of being dropped. Well, bizarrely, these guys are almost in the same situation after you take a huge pull. And right now we're looking at Timmy Bauer here on the front out of Northern California. What a spirit he is. One of just the nicest guys in eSport racing here. And he's got a huge engine. So for Timmy, he's going to be motivated to do a great ride for the Finesse Rockets. This is a team that he joined. Jordan Shane was in the World Championships representing Canada. But watch this now, Matt. You see that little gap there? This is what you don't want to do. You're out in the wind here, and Timmy does a tremendous job here of getting right back up into the draft. Very good work right now by the Finesse Rocket. Should give Alex Tenselhoff some credit as well. Very strong rider. Joseph Chuduk, as well as Matt Usborne, who is up in Vancouver, British Columbia. He rides out on his porch in a high-rise condo there in downtown Vancouver. He's got quite the setup. Using natural cooling, Matt, because you're running your engine very, very hot. You're not in the red zone here. You're in the purple zone already. Let's pick up Swedish Swifters right now. I'll throw it to you for all the Swedish names, Matt.
Yeah, thanks very much indeed. That's very kind of you. My Swedish is limited, Dave, but I can say Alexander Wetterell, an ex-pro from the road, a very, very good time trialist, in fact, is Alexander Wetterell. He is medalled in the Swedish Open TT Championships. Johan Noren, Marcus Dorsch, Marcus Sjögren, and Andres Frisk. Very, very quick finisher indeed. You can just see Noren. He's the rider on the front at the moment. Just look at his stats, just touching under 500 watts, 6.6 watts a kilo. And then look at Sjögren at the back, 247 watts. That is the difference. Get in the slipstreams, stay there, recover as much as you can. And it's interesting, Dave, about this sort of course. As we go up one of the small climbs, this is only a drag of about 4%, lasts about 300-400 meters. We might see them blobbing up. There we go. Just see the riders grouping up a little bit on here, just to save that little bit of energy. You do see the riders grouping together. I mean, we saw this happen a lot more in New York because the course is so hilly. So many different changes in course elevation. But here it is pretty flat. But this is one of the only times you will see them blob up on this little climb as we swing left here. We're heading now to Team Draft. I'll throw it straight back for you to talk about the men in red.
Well, good. We've gotten to know a lot about Ed Veal and Bruce Bird, two talented riders with huge hearts coming out of Canada. Ryan Rutterham is there, another Canadian on this squad. So they've got 3 Maple Leafs. That's always a good sign. That's good luck in some cultures. The Jed Scott representing Scotland, and Ross Fawcett there with the Union Jack next to his name. This is a strong squad that's up and coming, but when you look at Bruce Bird here, I love the heart that this man races with. No doubt that both he and Ed Veal have got that tremendous capacity for pain. So it's hard not to cheer on a team like Draft here, Matt, as they work their way through. I would completely agree with your earlier assessment as well about the blobbing up. And, every team comes into a team time trial with a pretty set plan. It's structured, no doubt. You've got pacing schedules. There's a director. They're all on Discord communicating. There's an order that the riders have. But as Mike Tyson says, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. And well, that last 4% climb, that's probably where that happens, where all of a sudden the set order that you were racing with, you're going to start shuffling, you're going to start having riders skipping pulls at this point, and riders being asked to take longer pulls out here. And that is what makes team time trialing so complex. It is like a Machiavellian chess match in a time trial here. It's not just about how you feel, it's about working that with the rest of the riders in the group. As we pick up Bolt Racing Team, always a team to watch here, Matt, with Matt Brook, Cybran Welling, Will Budge, and Tom Gox. Is 4 riders not ideal. This is the kind of day where you want to keep everybody on board. Oh, no, it is 5. I'm sorry, everybody there. My bad.
Yeah, we're just getting the stats for 4 of those guys, but it is Hewell Davis on at the front at the moment. We haven't got his stats there, but he's the rider from Wales doing that long turn on the front. We think roughly most of these teams kind of optimize will be riding on the front for around 20 to 30 seconds. But it's about keeping that really, really high speed on a course like this, given the standard of racing as we look at Kirkmere. They've kind of feel pretty at home in this league, Kirkmere, Dave, don't they? They're currently sitting in 11th place at the moment. They have 63 points. They've got they're sharing 11th and 12th with Bolt Racing Team, so they could move themselves properly into the top 10 if they put a few places between them and Vitus, who sit in 9th. But this team have really, really impressed me. They've had several kind of top 10s in the points races, but then that standout performance that really opened our eyes to this German team was, of course, back in round 2 in France with that second place, only 5 seconds behind Pio Auto. And I think, Dave, if they be interested to look at the intermediate splits, this is a team that, if they get it right, could cause an upset today.
Could not agree more, Matt. When you talk about trajectory, this is a team that will be a perennial top 5. 2 of these riders are standouts, Ingo Reichardt and Johannes Reckenauer. Andre Reinland, Jakob Stenzel, and Jan Steinman make up this squad, as we're going to jump in with Insured Pedal Power now, another long-standing team. I should mention that Kirkmire is one of the teams, along with the Zwift Warriors, that came out of Zwift Community that have done more than keep their head above water out there. They've been throwing punches above their weight. Even as you mentioned, Kirkmire had a top 3 ride already. So let's go ahead and jump in, though, with Insured Pedal Power, as this is Jamie Morris, Simon Collett, Jake Simons, Neil Ostenfeld, and Collett there as well. Looking like a unit, working well together here. Again, folks just joining us, it's just over 31 kilometers of racing, a little over 160 meters of climbing, which is almost nothing. It's not quite nothing, but it has an impact. There's a couple sectors there, as Matt was highlighting earlier, that 4% grade. It's going to be Vitus that we're jumping in with now, Mr. McGlinchey, another one of the riders who certainly has made his name in esports racing out of Northern Ireland. Matt, only 3 riders, though. That's not ideal.
It's certainly not. It's the 3 very good riders, Ashton, McGlinchey, and Kenway. But given the opposition, it's quite clear. Anybody knows anything about team time trialing will know that this team is at a distinct disadvantage. Funnily enough, in the last team time trial of season 1, they actually finished 3rd, only 19 seconds behind Canyon. So once they've got the full complement, once they're running at full steam, we know this is a team that can really make a difference. It'll be interesting what they do today, but there's just not the same opportunity to recover. They're going to have to do slightly longer turns on the front. It's just a very, very difficult proposition. The standards are so high, and you're underpowered by 20, 40. Well, they're basically 40% underpowered here, Dave, aren't they? And that's no fault of their own. They've got 3 riders. They're going to have to do what they can as we move a little bit further down now. This is the Zwift Warriors of cycling. They've had a great season, haven't they? The Zwift Warriors out of Japan, primarily with the Australian infiltrator there, Simon Ritchie. They're, sitting in 7th place. They've had such a solid season. And they're safe into season 3 as well. And they've sit in the middle of the table. And again, They could, if they beat Callas by a few places, they could move up, but I think they would be pretty happy with a really solid top 10 place in their first ever season at the Premier Division.
What is the word? Unami, that special flavor. And that's what racing needed, was this team right here. The Zwift Warrior Cycling has brought a lot to the sport. And you know what, Matt? If things had gone a little bit differently, they might have just won one of our points racing days as well. A couple of these guys, Hidenori Sasaki is a tremendous climber. Kanji Abeki, also a rider to watch. I mean, everybody on the screen right now has got potential. And that hope and potential, right, Matt? 2021, those should be two words to focus on. That's for sure. And this team represents all of that. Takato Ikeda and Yuki Tanaka. A lot of talent here. Definitely a team to watch. Keep them on your radar. And I think Simon Ritchie is in such a unique position as well. Matt, you raced around the globe. You know that one of the coolest things about cycling are the people that you meet and the cultures that you get to experience. And I hope that Simon gets to take a trip up to maybe he can go join them for the Tokyo Olympics as a spectator.
I think he would. Yeah, I'm sure he would. He would love that. Well, the Zwift Warriors, as I said, they sat in seventh position. Actually, yeah, maybe I would love to. I would love to. But we're looking now at the world of elite Zwifters. This is Team Wes, Jimmy Kershaw, Maida Franklin from Brazil, Stefan Bennett from France, and then we have two Canadians, Chris Yip and Chris Ernst, and they're riding in a very, very nice and tight formation. They'll be swinging left onto the mole. They'll be going through that first intermediate split that comes at 7.6 Ks. This will give us our first real kind of check on how these the teams are riding tonight. The second intermediate split is at Westminster at 16.8, and then it's Lower Thames Street at 24.1 before they run down this mall again for the final time. But World of Elite Zwifters, again, really solid season so far for these guys.
This team has raced in WTRL for a lot of weeks. They're coming up on their 100th race it'll be just a couple weeks until they hit 100, but they have done their homework talking about World Elite Zwifters. Now we look at the Norwegian squad. Again, as our Scandinavian specialist, I'll throw it back to you, Matt, for the names. Did you ever race in Norway during your career? It's certainly...
Yeah, I did. I raced in the World Championships, World Road Championships in 1993, when a certain Jan Ulrich won the amateurs and a certain Lance Armstrong won the pros. So that was my only time, I think, in Norway. But great memories, and they've got a really, really rich heritage in cycling. For a small nation, they really can. They've got a lot of good riders: Ole Christian Fa, Christian Oftendal, Odd Erland Hansen, Martin Roster Omdal, and Uvig Lovig. This is a slightly different lineup that we've seen before as we look at Legion of Los Angeles, and they are catching them. So the action has already begun, Dave. Legion of Los Angeles flying around this course, led by the irrepressible Freddie Ovett, Alex Cowan just behind there. It looks like the first catch of the night on our virtual cameras, Dave, is going to be made. There'll be no Legion of Los Angeles. We said it before. Okay, Freddie Ovett, the standout individual, Dave, but they are a very, very cohesive unit indeed and sit equal fourth on the general classification. But look at this, Kirkmaier, the first to starters at the moment with 6:24. That's an amazing start. The German team heading for an upset. Zwift Warriors in second. What a start by them. We are in for a humdinger of an evening as the catch is made under Abratiart. Do you see that? Freddie Ovett even gave him a cheeky wave. What? This is unbelievable. Oh, gives him a cheeky wave. I've never seen a wave given in it with a catch. He's rewriting the Esports rulebook with every single pedal stroke.
Putting a little mustard on the pain pretzel. There is Freddie Ovett as they roll through. So now you got to look at the whole squad. They are on a great day today. This is Legion of LA. One of the best stories in cycling. We've talked about that over the last year, what they're doing here. That's Corey Williams tucked right into the middle of the group. I highly recommend his Instagram. Nation's #1 beast is where you'll find Corey for some great stories. Tyler Williams, we had inboard with Tyler last week racing out of Sonoma County. Sam Boardman, who's down there right outside of San Diego. And then the Canadian Alec Cowan, winner at Cascade in his career, but he's now living in Arkansas. Fayetteville, Arkansas is the new epic spot to go mountain bike. Actually, any kind of cycling here in the United States, Matt. When you next time we can travel, I'd highly recommend that we meet up there. So this team and Fuego right now. Zwift Warriors, look at this, quicker than Kirkmaier. at that check. Yeah. So we're updating at that checkpoint. I mean, you know that Legion of LA is in fuego, yet Kerkmeyer is a little quicker there, as are the Zwift Warriors. This is turning into an absolute Donnybrook. Expect bedlam here today in London, Matt. I love it because we've still got our fastest teams to go through that check.
We certainly do. We've got Dutch Racing. They've already gone through it. So Saris at the Pros Closet have just gone through that check. We'll get the update, the full update in a moment. Remember, Zwift Warriors currently leading. I have a feeling, well, it might not change. Of course, if they are the quickest, they are the quickest. We're still looking at the Legion of Los Angeles at the moment, blobbing up very, very nicely on this downhill section. You just saw Canyon going the other way. And there we go. Let's have a look at, there it is. So Zwift Warriors are leading Kerkmeyer at 0.2 of a second. Saris and the Pros Closet, well, they are in pole position at the moment, but look at that, it's pretty much the same time, 2/300ths of a second. And look at Saris, Legion, Canyon, all pretty much on the same time. This is going to go down to the wire. Great riding by Vitus Esports, 8:10 with only 3 riders. This is absolutely sensational stuff at the moment. Very, very close to call. Remember, look back to last year, Dave. Just a quickie to remind you, Canyon Esports wound out on top. Saris and the Pros Closet second. Pio Auto Ceramic Speed in third. That was season 1. The current standings, season 2. Saris lead by 2 points to Canyon Esports, then another 2 points back to Pio Auto Ceramic Speed. At the moment, we can't split them. This is going to be very, very close indeed as we still focus on Legion of Los Angeles, currently in second position, or third position, should I say, at 4 seconds.
Well, as they say, we sell you the entire seat, but you are only going to be using the edge of it here. Today, Matt, we had 4 teams within half a second of each other. So clearly, I have a feeling that that pacing schedule is being used, the same pacing schedule is being used by a few teams. It's very important to note that this is one of the pivotal teams out here today. Dutch Racing on your squad. Now, if one of the 2 teams, PO Auto Ceramic Speed or Canyon, is going to win the season, they are counting on this Dutch squad to beat their competitors. Not so obviously, let's just look at it from PO Auto Ceramic Speed's perspective. They need not only this team, Dutch Racing, but a couple of other squads. As a matter of fact, they would be as inspired as anyone by the ride they're seeing from Legion of LA right now, Matt, because you need a lot of help if you want to make your way onto the, here's PO Auto now. So this is one of the teams that we've talked a lot about. They've been the monsters of team time trial. You cannot deny that. However, they had some technical issues, some internet dropouts, some riders getting caught in bad positioning on a couple different days of racing out here where it was starting to look like they were the team to beat as we came into the middle part of the season, Matt. That all changed. It became Canyon. Then another twist of fate put our friends at Saris the Pros Closet, who have just been consistent and strong throughout the season. I never want to sell short what Saris the Pro Closet has been doing out here. That team has remained, they've kept their head in the game, their eye on the prize, and now they're bearing down on it one final time. This is going to be unbelievably fun racing to watch here. I wouldn't want to be doing it myself, that's for sure, because these guys are going to be digging incredibly deep. Let's take a look now at, this is going to be Canyon Esports, the team currently sitting in second on the table. 2 points out of the lead. Alex West, Gary Mueller, Lionel Viasim, another big star in esports. Ollie Jones, who's been finding the podium now, and the American talented Spencer Segabrook. All right, Matt, this is one of the key teams today.
Yep, Canyon Esports, remember, sit in second place overall, only 2 seconds behind, so 2 points, should I say, behind Saris and the Pros Closet, and they have a very, very well-drilled line. Remember, they are the champions of the ZRL Season 1, coming into the final round with everything to play for, and they're going to put everything into this one. So well drilled, still 5 riders in the mix there. It'll be fascinating to see what they can do at the second intermediate split. But let's move on to Saris, because they are the leaders. Saris and the Pros Closet, they have such a strong all-round team. And there we go, Dan Fleeman, the former British Hill Climb champion, pro on the road, Gavin Dempster from Scotland, Matt Brandt, Matt Kurbel, and Ryan Larson, the former American Zwift champion. And at the moment you can see Dan Fleeman doing a big turn on the front, hovering around 6 watts a kilo. He's sticking out just under 400 watts at the moment. This is the slightly downhill section, so that's why the power isn't quite as high. It's very, very challenging and difficult when the road drops to actually keep on top of the power. But as soon as the road levels, as soon as the road starts to pitch up again, that's when you see the power increase dramatically. And now Larson on the front. So good formation so far. We're coming into the second split in a minute. The earlier teams have already gone through, but it's going to be very, very telling indeed. But a solid performance by Finesse at the moment with 20.58 as we look at the power of Gavin Dempster. Well, there, 5 watts a kilo, Dave, making it look like a walk in the park, but sat in second position, just showing again the level of performance needed here.
There's no chink in the armor at all. This is now for them. They are locked down and focused on the finish of this race, and they're going to be riding to a season championship if they can just keep this going. I mean, the team time trial is amazing. It really is. It requires the touch of a magician, that unbelievably subtle touch with the power of Hercules, and you need 5 riders that can do that, and this team has set the standard along with Pio Auto, to be fair. But you watch today here in London, they want to put on a clinic. Gavin Dempster out of Scotland has had some big wins individually this season, and now he's on a part of an esport. This is a movement of the people here. This team has a lot of fans out there. And right now, Dan Fleeman, who was a former professional, one of the really talented riders who brings in real life experience and nicely blends that in. This team cross-pollinates together to lemon and lime. This is the Lyman of racing out here.
It certainly is. With Dempster out of the saddle here on one of these very, very short little drags. Again, that's the thing about a team time trial. Primarily kind of sat in the saddle, and not many opportunities on this London course to actually get out of the saddle. So generally, once you're back or your backside starts aching a little bit, you might just knock it up a couple of cogs and then start the low cadence to just get out of the saddle. But this is Kirkmare, and it looks like Kirkmare are actually starting to catch the team in front of them at the moment, and that will be Bolt Racing that they're going to go past in a minute. So they're just heading briefly, well, they've just head over the bridge, over the River Thames, through this little underground section, essentially linking the City of London into the Surrey Hills. They won't be going over any of the big climbs in the Surrey Hills, but this is a good indicator. Kirkmare onto a pretty solid performance, and there it is. They're currently leading at the intermediate split. Still several teams to go through, but Kirkmare leading 3.5 seconds ahead of Draft. Finesse 15 seconds behind as we look at the figure of Jan Steinman. So the first catch, Dave, looks as if it's going to be made just on the exit of these tunnels on the roads of Surrey.
As a team director, you love this moment when your team has a carrot dangling right out in front of them, Matt. They're as motivated as they could possibly be to go make that catch. Cover and kill is the mindset that you need with your athletes, and you can just say, go get them. And there you have it. Kirkmare is going to have a tremendous time out here today. It's, I mean, will they come out of the woodwork today, Matt, to be one of those teams that slots in? Because that's what everybody outside of Ceres, the pros closet, is in a pretty wild mathematical equation right now, trying to figure out how to get enough points. There's only 2 teams that realistically have a shot. We've been spending some time with Pio Auto Ceramic Speed. They're gonna, the magic number for them is 5. 3 is the magic number for Canyon. But the way things are going out here right now, it's looking like Ceres the Pros Closet is having the ride that they're looking for. But we're gonna get a good look at Kirkmare. Again, Ingo Reichardt is the locomotive right now. That man is a wattage cottage, no doubt about it, as he's throwing down some watt bombs here. But we're back in with the Zwift Warriors. They've got 4 riders, Matt. That's not necessarily a bad thing if you had a rider who was able to participate through the first half of the race. This is where you have to give our game designers a ton of credit, figuring out how to connect these 2 worlds. London into, I guess it would be London into Surrey. Is that right, Matt?
It is. It's London into the Surrey Hills, and what better way to do it than by something pretty traditional in London, and that is the London Underground. And look at that. They've even taken care, Dave, to put boards over the train tracks. I mean, yeah, the designers have absolutely gone to town, had a lot of fun, but it's very thoughtful, because that would be a very, very bumpy ride indeed for Takado Aikida and the rest of his teammates, because the Zwift Warriors, Dave, are about to catch Vitus Esports. So superb riding here by the primarily Japanese setup. They'll be going through there's the situation. They were fourth, so the Zwift Warriors at 8 seconds, so still very, very close indeed, at just over half distance. So a great performance by the Zwift Warriors to only be 8 seconds behind Kirkmare. Just shows the real depth in this squad. They've really got to grips with racing at this kind of level. Kirkmare, the fastest team out on the road, and it looks like Kirkmare have caught now the team in front of them, and that was Bolt Racing. So expected them to have a good performance tonight, Dave, and they are flying around this course at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely interesting to me that Zwift Warriors, Matt, 8 seconds behind this team right here that look like they're racing on the Autobahn, as we now jump in with, I would say, the primarily Canadian outfit. This is going to be Bruce Bird here of Draft. So this team in red, again, very easy to pick out. A lot of fans out there, as they are more than holding their own out here today. I'm watching this camera angle here to see if they are 5 or 4 riders still left for the squad, as you see Fawcett coming through. There they are. 5. Entire team still together here.
Great run. I mean, as you said, they look like they are actually catching one of the teams in front of them. They're actually going to catch, or they can see the team at Swedish Swifters just in front of them over the hill. They can juice that little blob, so they're maybe only about 10 seconds behind the Swedish team. But look at this on the right hand side. Kirkmare still the fastest team. Legion of Los Angeles 4 and a bit seconds behind. World of Elite Swifters in 4th. We've still got some of the teams: Dutch Racing, Pio Auto, Ceramic Speed, and Canyon Esports, and of course Saris to go through. And it is Canyon who now have gone 1 second quicker than Kirkmare. They are on the ride of the night so far. They need something very, very special indeed. They need to finish 3 clear places in front of Saris to beat them on points. Saris are coming through the intermediate split now. What time have they managed to do? There'll be a couple of seconds delay before the Saris time comes onto the right hand side of our screen here. This is going to be very, very, they're 1.5 seconds down with Kirkmare in between. So if that current situation stays, they'll be equal on points at the top, Dave. This is an absolute humdinger, a thriller of a finale for season 2. We're half distance, and Dave, you cannot split these teams. Sensational stuff tonight.
It doesn't get better than this, Matt. We've got ourselves pandemonium in the streets of London right now. Look at this. So Draft and Legion of LA, if one of those 2 teams can get up in top of Saris the Pros Closet, this is all hands on deck. Panic stations. Well, boy, if you're a director, you don't want to be saying panic stations, do you? That's for sure. You want to keep these guys calm, cool, and collected, because Saris the Pros Closet is up against it right now. As far as the Zwift Racing League, Charlie, the whole team that works to put this together, certainly our friends at WTRL as well, this is what we have been waiting for, a team time trial to decide the season, and it is a matter of seconds. It is a ding-dong battle going on in London right now as we jump back in with Ollie Jones, Spencer Sagerbrook, Gary Mueller, and Alex West. This is Canyon. This is the team that's trying to use some sleight of hand out here and steal the title from Saris the Pros Closet. Oh, Matt, this is good stuff, my friend.
This is so tight at the top, as you said. Dutch Racing aren't too far behind. Legion is still only 4 seconds adrift. We've got Pio Auto. It looks like Pio Auto, we can just see them. It looks like Canyon might actually make the catch. They've still got a few hundred meters to go. You can just see them going out of the vision at the moment. Remember, all of these teams started at only 30-second intervals, but it looks as if Canyon might actually catch Pio Auto, which is absolutely sensational. Remember, round 5, it's Pio Auto who took the win in the team time trial. 2 seconds ahead of Canyon. Canyon are on the ride of the night so far, but it is so tight to call. And of course, everybody will have that same bit of information. They'll be fed the data, fed the stats, and based on that, they're going to try and find something else. This is going to hurt like no other team time trial. So much at stake, as we see the figure of Spencer Segerbrook of the United States of America putting his turn in on the front. 7.5 watts a kilo, absolutely throwing down the watts with Jones and Vujasan on his wheel.
Boy, if you're Canyon right now, it's not only this exceptional effort that your team is making, but you have got your director watching very, very closely and hoping that Kirkmeyer can have the ride of their lives too. That's what's so interesting about this final race, is that we mentioned at the top, one team controls their destiny. That's going to be Sarah's the Pros Closet, but they needed to win this race to be sure that they were going to win the season. That is not happening right now. So we're going to move back. This looks like Aero to me, the Australian team, and I have a feeling, Matt, our first teams are going to be bearing down on the finish line pretty quickly here, as this one will be done and dusted for our first squads. But things are really hotting up back with all of our contenders today. That 3-team race is going to be, it could be that tie that you were talking about, Matt. That's entirely possible, and then it comes down to who had the better ride today.
And if the situation remains, I mean, actually, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to make any predictions, Dave, until we see them cross the line. But what we know is we have got a battle. I'm not going to throw the curse of the commentator into the mix. I am certainly not going to do that as we look at Benjamin Hill. Great to see Team Aero. I mean, they are, unfortunately, as we mentioned, going to be relegated, but they are giving it everything. It just shows the kind of spirit that all of these teams have, regardless of their place and their position in the league. Because Aero, we know they're a team that have been around a long time, and as you said, Dave, they're racing at a completely at odds to the ideal times and a lot of these teams who are based in Europe, etc. As we go back again to Canyon still with that fastest time so far, and it looks as if they are going to catch Pio Auto. They're doing it slowly but surely. Dave, you can just see Pio Auto in the top of your screen as we just go through some of the gently rolling sections here in Surrey. Buyasan now on the front, pressing home the advantage, and that'll be an extra carrot in front of them. This will really be giving them extra motivation, won't it, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely. As one of the best time trialers in the world used to say, Rowan Dennis, don't crack under pressure. Well, that's the name of the game right now for this team here as well, is not cracking. They got a great leader on this team with the experienced Belgian rider, the Duck, Lionel Viassen, here as he finishes up his pole. 5 riders together, that's going to be the difference of a second or two, Matt, when you look at it now. The teams that are running with 3-4 riders, this is where they start taking on water like the Titanic, to tell you the truth, because the teams that keep rolling through, remembering, and everybody looks like they're taking good, strong pulls right now. That is Gary Mueller up to the front. Again, just one of the very few moments where you can use the Super Tuck, which will never be outlawed in Zwift, don't worry.
Yep, the Super Tuck, as you said, it's now, well, what are we? It's not banned till the 1st of April in real life, but it's certainly used here.
Right.
We've got another month till that one's formally banned. We'll see how that one pans out, but at the moment, we're looking at Lionel Vuillersan. Yes, his pet duck. Yes, folks, if you're listening to this for the first time, you go, what? He's got a pet duck? Yes, he has got a pet duck. Its name is Gilbert, after his hero, Philippe Gilbert. And Vuillersan and the rest of his teammates are riding like heroes tonight. They know they've got everything to do. They started 2 points behind the men in green, yellow and white. Saris and the Pros Closet had 1-2-4. Canyon have 1-2-2 points. Pio Auto Ceramic Speed, who are about to be caught by Canyon Esports, have 1-20. But what Canyon need? They do need another team, or they'd love another team to beat Saris and the Pros Closet. That's the mathematical situation. They can only do so much. Then all they can hope for is that Saris and the Pros Closet are beaten by some other squads, because at the moment Canyon Esports are doing all they can and they're doing it very well, but the gaps are very, very narrow indeed, Dave.
With a little help from our friends, is the what would be playing in the background into the finale here for Canyon, and it's going to be 2 friends that they need as far as other teams that can beat Sarah's the Pros Closet. What an interesting equation. So as if Canyon wasn't motivated enough, here is super champion out of Australia, Ollie Jones, taking a monster pull right now, and this is where it gets a little tenuous. Don't want to blow up the team, because Ollie is clearly motivated here by the team right in front of them. So up in front of you, back behind you, the action is left, right, and center. It's just all over the shop right now as you see the teams honing in on the finish line. Is Kirkmeyer done enough? Look at this. So fastest time at the check, 29:56. That's got draft up into, we do need to wait on a couple teams, so we'll take a deep breath here, because that's not all of the data that we're waiting for here. But at 24.1K, this is the check. Kirkmeyer 29:56. Look how close. Legion of LA is there. It's basically tied when you look at it. Draft also on an incredible day. We have 3 teams within 1 second at that check right now. What an absolutely brilliant race we've got on our hands. What a way to wrap up season 2 of the ZRL. Ryan Larson. Hey, Matt, wouldn't you say Ryan Larson has been another standout rider this year, finding the podium a few times, a perennial contender?
Yeah, he's got a very, very fast finish as well. Is exceptionally quick, got that kind of kick at the end, but is having to use that kind of strength in a completely different way now as we look at PO Auto Ceramic Speed. Remember, they sit in a 3rd position at the moment. They'll be going through that second intermediate split very, very shortly. Kirkmare now lead, as Dave just said, leads of Los Angeles, only 0.081 of a second behind. That's around just under a 1/10 of a second behind. And then we just got that split will come up very, very shortly. What are PO Auto going to do? We know that they're still to be caught by a Canyon Esports. Canyon Esports bearing down. They're making it very, very hard indeed. There we go. Canyon Esports 29.34. They are the quickest team so far. 21 seconds ahead now. They've pulled a massive chunk of time out over the last few Ks in between split number 1 and 2. Canyon are going to catch PO Auto Ceramic Speed. This is the ride for them so far this season. They are absolutely romping. They believe, Dave, they believe that it's all in their hands. All they can do is ride the quickest they can. And importantly, they've still got 5 riders as well. The catch about to be made.
They look like they've done enough to me, Matt, to tell you the truth. Now, this next team that we have coming through, that split at 24K, and again, that's 7 kilometers before the finish. This is going to tell us a lot. As a matter of fact, I'm bracing myself because if Ceres the Pros Closet comes through outside of 4th here, so look how many teams are stacked up. 21 seconds back, 22 seconds. Oh, there it is, 15.96. They're doing just enough. It's about 5 seconds in the balance, Matt. This could go any different direction. Don't go anywhere, folks. This is bike racing at its very best. Esports finale of the Zwift Racing League has come down to this. Matt, there is no way you can say definitively who's going to be our Season 2 champion. This one is going to come down to heart, precision. Forget about patience now. That doesn't matter. It's about just go.
Yeah, but now the situation on the road is out of their hands. I mean, clearly Canyon have got a good lead. They've got 15.96 seconds and nearly 16 seconds over Saris, but that is kind of irrelevant if Saris still stays second. That it's up to it's kind of Legion of Los Angeles at 22 seconds, Kirkmare at 21. They've been overtaken by Saris, so Saris's rate of progression is on the ascendancy as we look at one of the first teams to finish now. It's going to be, Kiss Racing are done. Restart now on the green, thundering down the finishing straight. So Kiss Racing have set the first time of 39.05. Restart just crossed the line. So their season is done and dusted. So Restart looks as if they're going to be safely staying in the Premier Division this year. But what a battle we're having out on the road here, Dave, today.
Yeah, man, doesn't get better than this. Now, really, to be clear, Canyon needs more than just winning this race and beating Ceres the Pros Closet. They need 2 other teams to come across the line faster than Ceres the Pros Closet as well. They're 2 teams with a good shot at doing that, although, Matt, I guess I wouldn't say good shot, with a shot, I should say, because I think that Ceres the Pros Closet has kept a little extra for the finale. I think they've got a little more nitrous that they can throw at this here for the last 7K. They're going to need it because these teams, so Canyon wishes that they could take a little bit of their pixie dust, whatever the magic dust is that's working for them, and sprinkle it on these other teams and make them just a few seconds faster. Boy, you almost wish you could take 20 Lionel Viasen watts and give it to another team, because that might be what it takes. One super pull.
Well, we'll soon find out. We've just seen that Team Swedish Swifters, I think they were almost actually caught. Well, Vitus weren't too far behind. They crossed the line as well. It's 1 kilometre to go for World of Elite Swifters now. Dutch Racing still to finish. This is Canyon actually catching Callis. So Canyon absolutely flying, as we well know. They've actually made up, 2 minutes they've actually made up on Callis, and Callis are no slouches at the Team Tantrol. So they're absolutely flying. It looks like they're actually catching the Dutch team as well, so they're on to them all. their finish won't be long. They're going to go round the back of them all, head up, of course, past the Buckingham Palace, then head back down again. So they've still got about 2.5 Ks to go. Have the men for Ollie Jones, Vujasan. This is the finishing now for the Bolt Racing team at the moment. Well, absolutely wonderful stuff out there. But as you said, Canyon Esports, I think, are going to win the night. But it all matters about, can Saracen the Pros Closet hold on to second place? Because if the situation on the road remains the same, Dave, Saracen the Pros Closet are the champions.
Yeah, and smart money would stay with them at this point, Matt, but anything can happen out here. And this isn't a cyclocross, anything could happen when Mathieu van der Poel has a 3-minute lead with 1 lap to go. This is a legitimate chance of anything could happen out here, as it's going to come down to how they got here. As they say, you dance with the one that you came with. Well, Sarah's the Pros Closet has been incredibly consistent throughout this season, Matt. They haven't won an individual day of racing throughout this season, but they've always been right there on the top of the table, and it looks like that might just pay off here today. As we take a look at the teams now that are really going to be digging in here, the finale is brutal in the discipline of the team time trial. It's impressive to see teams with 5 riders still together here.
Yeah, this is the insured powered by Pedal Power coming into their finish. Morris, Collard, Simmons, Ostveld and McGoldrick. They'll be finishing very, very shortly. They'll be glad it's all over. They've had a solid season so far. Came into this final round. Well, Pio Auto have just gone past Canyon again here. So Pio Auto, in the process, all they're going to do is draw out Canyon. Pio Auto are full of fight. I think they're a very, very proud team indeed. They know that they can't beat them, but they certainly are going to try and finish them in front of them. But all this is going to do is make Canyon Esports go even quicker. We've got a proper battle. But in the process, this is very interesting indeed, because Canyon are losing a rider. It looks like Ollie Jones is actually been distanced. Vujasan now finding West has been dropped now. That was Sigerbreaks, Muller and Vujasan. So West has been distanced now. Maybe he did do that on purpose, because they've only got about 1.6 Ks to go now, Dave.
Yeah, I believe like a booster rocket is what they're doing. There is using up riders, taking one monster pull, because the time taken off of the 3rd rider, always important to remember. Canyon still with 4, and that's how you get an extra half second, is by sacrificing a rider. But that is high, that's master class team time trialing. But if there's anyone that could do it, this is going to be the Zwift Warriors finishing, with Ikeda bringing them across the line. They had a very good early split. We'll see how that holds up for them here as we'll start populating our finish times now. Kirkmeyer in with that 38.26, the fastest time. Draft right behind them, only 5.73 seconds back. That's a great ride from Draft out here today. Well done, guys.
Yep, solid ride. Very, very good. One of their best rides of the season so far. The Legion of Los Angeles finishing very, very strongly indeed. Freddie Ovet just distancing his teammates. Remember, it's the 3rd rider across the line where the time will be taken to Ovet, the first home from the Legion of Los Angeles. And again, we've got Jones, Vujasan, Muller, Segerbrook. What can they do? They will certainly, I think, post the fastest time of the night, the way they're riding at the moment. But the big question is, who is going to finish in 2nd, 3rd and 4th position? That could possibly change the outcome of this whole season. This is the final race of Season 2 of the Zwift Racing League. Canyon Esports fighting for the win. They are the defending champions of Season 1. They've got about 200 metres to go now. They're blobbing up. Segerbrook is going. Vujasan, Jones and Muller. They could not have done any more. They have pulled out their performance of the season so far. But is it going to be enough? They're all across the road and they cross the line now. We'll get the confirmation of the time. Pio Auto just behind them. So there's a proper ding-dong battle. There we go. 37.45. The Dutch also finishing there. 37.45 is the best time so far. Pio Auto ceramic speed at 32. And here they are. This is Saracen the Pros Closet, Dave.
Well, and this is it. It's all on the line right here, right now. As Ryan Larson looks like he's going to bring the team home, I think that they are just inside of the schedule that they needed to create and hold on to. So let's see. We'll have to let all the suds settle out here. There's the finish gantry, and this should be your championship ride, the gold standard, as Sarah's the Pros Closet is going to bring this one home and put paid to what has been an amazing 2021 Season 2 for the ZRL. This one is done and dusted. So, Matt, it'll be for all our scorers now. They're crunching the numbers. Did they do enough?
Well, they crossed the line. Larson the first time. Fleeman looked like he was the third counter. We wait with bated breath to see what the results are. Remember, all of these results are subject to confirmation. But look at that, Canyon Esports, will they take the win on the night? Second place goes to Pio Auto. Ceramic Speed. Wow, 2 seconds in it there. So Saris and the Pros Closet third. Remember, these are provisional results. So Pio Auto, Ceramic Speed, that little battle at the end has seen them move ahead of Saris and the Pros Closet. So it looks as if the overall will mean they were equal on points. Kirkmare fourth at 41. Legion fifth. Solid performance by them yet again. Draft in sixth. Finesse Rockets in seventh. World of Elite Zwifters are in eighth. Restart. What a performance by Restart to finish inside the top 10 at 107. And then Dutch Racing rounding out the top 10. Well, what a fascinating battle that is. We'll have a look at the rest of the top 20. Remember, 21 teams started out today. We'll just move on to look at the teams, and we'll need to get our bean counters on things. So Team Swedish Swifters in 11th. Then we have Kiss Racing Team, Turbo, Aero, No Pins R3R. The Zwift Warriors in 16th, Bolt Race Team, BRT in 17th, Insured, powered by Pedal Power in 18th, Vitus Esports, started with only 3 men, remember, in 19th, and then Callas Esports rounding out the top 20 at 222. Dave, what can you say? An absolute nail-biter of a finish, subject to confirmation. But what a win on the night by Canyon. But third place for the leaders coming into the final round of Saris. We shall get the provisional rankings in a moment's time. So we're all back on the screen. But, well, we're going to wait for the dust to settle there, Dave. But what an absolutely magnificent performance by Canyon Esports tonight. What more could they do? And they absolutely, well, they romped home tonight. It was a big, big winning margin on a very fast course.
If Kirkmire had gone 6 seconds faster, or Legion of LA had gone 10 seconds faster, which is in that margin of error, we would have had a different league champion for Season 2, as far as my early math tells me here, Matt. That is as close as it gets. Hannah, this lived up to what we were hoping for. I think we saw it all this season, to tell you the truth. We saw a dominant team not miss a step with Heino in the women's race. And as far as the men, this one went back and forth like a prize fight. And it wasn't until one final, well, sensational ride there from Saris the Pros Closet. And you know what? Speak to their wheelhouse. What did they do all year? Finished in the top 3. They did it again.
Oh, they certainly did. An absolute nail-biter. I mean, everything else after that first intermediate, or the third intermediate split, they were clearly the fastest at every single split. Canyon did all they wanted, but that battle when they caught Pio Auto Ceramic Speed, and then there's that real battle, wasn't there, between Pio Auto and Canyon, and obviously Pio Auto then managed to move up and finish second. I mean, we'll have a look in a minute. We need to get confirmation of these results. It's worth stressing that everything is provisional, and we'll get confirmation of those results as soon as we can. But what an absolutely epic battle that was. I mean, you couldn't have written a script, because it really did go down to the wire.
Yeah, that's exactly what we were hoping for with this season, the way everything was drawn up, and to end with the team time trial. Now, this season we only had 3, but it showed you how important it was when push came to shove. Your ability to team time trial is what decided this season's champion. The best racing I've seen for a long time happened out here today.
Yeah, that was very exciting. What are your? I mean, you weren't commentating on the final race, Hannah, but you watched it unfold with the rest of us. I mean, that was team time trialing for me sometimes is quite a difficult proposition, but I've just learned so much about the discipline, having ridden a bit myself as well. But it really does. I mean, this is a team classification, and that's what's key here. And you need to be good at this discipline, and it is thrilling. It's very exciting to watch.
Thrilling. If we just look at that race tonight, and what a finale to go out on. But as you say, this is a team competition. You can't only be good at the points races. You've got to have a well-rounded team, good at the team time trial, good in the points races. So overall, and then week in, week out, be consistent to be top of the league, top of the table. incredible. I can't help but think, though, how much motivation did that give PO Auto Ceramic Speed when Canyon Esports made that catch? Did that just give them that spur that they might well have needed? And to finish the 2 seconds ahead of Saris.
Yeah, again, we'll get confirmation. We're currently at Zwift HQ at the moment. They're currently, well, you can imagine they've got this giant digital abacus, which they're trying to kind of just fiddle out the results. But remember, it's a very, very close point scoring system at the top. Remember, 20 points for the win, 19 points per second, 18 points for third, and then the points follow all the way down to 1 point for the 20th team. And there were only 2 points that separated the teams at the start of this evening's racing in the men's. Saris had 1-2-4, and then we had Canyon with 1-2-2. So the difference is between is just 2 points. So we'll get that confirmation soon. You can really feel the tension here. It's palpable, of course. If there are teams on the same amount of points, then it goes on to the team that was the best performing team on the night. But more generally, Dave, before we get the confirmation through, we're going to get just a re-look at the women's results I've just heard in my earpiece. So let's have a look at those. We know that the win again went to Team Hino. Exceptionally dominant performance by them. And that, in the process, will win them their second championship in a row. I mean, Hannah, actually, you take me through the top here, because Hino Racing so dominant. What can you say about that team? 160 points, a 100% record.
Yeah, full house once again for Season 2. Finishing where they left off after Season 1. I mean, it really is incredible. As you said before, we've got racing of two halves. We can see the dominance, the experience, the power of on the women's side of Hino Racing Team, but then on the men's side, it's so close. It's back and forth, the results of who's knocking who off the top of the leaderboard. But I have to say also, when you look at Canyon Esports, the consistency they had throughout the series, really, really impressive. And I Race Like a Girl, Cryo RDT knocking at 2024 out of 4th place. So on the final event of the series, Cryo RDT moving up to 4th. Brilliant result for them.
It certainly was. Well, there you go. Hino in front of Canyon, and rounding out the podium for the series points of the women's I Race Like a Girl. Dave's tip for a sterling ride tonight. They certainly did that. But I do believe we've got the final results through for the series points for the men's as well. So let's wait with a bated breath to get confirmation. We know it was very, very tight. Canyon, the team that run out the winners. And there we go. It is Canyon that do take it, because they were equal on points. But as they won the final round, they are now the victors. I would imagine that at Canyon Esports headquarters, there is some champagne popping, because Canyon Esports are equal on points with Saris and the pros closet. But because they won the final round, they run out the winners of this championships. Well, absolutely. Well, a scintillating finale there, as close as you could make it on the same points. But on that countback, it is Canyon Esports that win. So Saris will have to settle for second place. PO Auto Ceramic Speed, after that sensational battle in the last couple of kilometers, that battle with Canyon Esports could have actually decided the title. That is absolutely amazing stuff. Superb performance from Legion of Los Angeles to move up into 4th. Dutch Racing are in 5th. World of Elite Zwift is 6th. Callas Esports in 7th. Zwift Warriors, great riding by then, again in 8th. Kirkmare 9th, and then Draft in 10th. And that's it, folks. That battle, that little battle heading into the final few Ks, Dave, could have made the difference. Well, it looks like it did, as we look at Vitus in 10th, Insured there in 12th, Bolt, Finesse, Restart Racing, Team Swedish Swifters in 16th. No Pins R3RE Racing Team there in 17th. Uno X in 18th. And then Turbo 19th. Kiss Racing Team in 20th. And it'll be Aero rounding out the championships in 21st. But what a battle. And it just shows the importance, or the very, very important factor that other teams could have that aren't necessarily battling out for the win, but because of that little battle towards the end, that effectively has actually changed the course of the men's final, Dave. Amazing.
If PO Auto doesn't get passed by Canyon, and those two teams kind of cross-pollinate for a moment there in the final 2K and lift each other up, maybe a second, maybe 2 seconds, this is a different story. And Ceres the Pros Closet wins the season. It doesn't get closer than that. There's no more intrigue or drama than you could possibly hope for. I mean, PO Auto wins the series for Canyon for all intents and purposes. Obviously, Canyon raced and won it themselves, but without PO Auto there, they don't win. That's incredible. Whoever designed up this points table did a very, very good job. I want them to do my next birthday party.
Well, you couldn't have written a better script. I mean, we are going to have to wrap things up, but I think, Hannah, just a final few words. It's been a wonderful season. I mean, a thrilling finale in the men's, dominant performance in the women's by Heino. I cannot wait for season 3, but what have been your takeaways? It's been spectacular racing across the board, and of course, we're going to get some new teams in the mix for season 3 as well from the community divisions.
Yeah, well, as it's goodbye to some of those riders who are, dropping out of the championship, we're going to get 3 new teams moving up from Tuesday night racing into the mix. So that's incredibly exciting. But I think this series going from strength to strength. We saw how exciting season 1 was. Season 2. Thrilling. I mean, we have seen incredible racing across the board, and season 3. I mean, I can't wait to see what's in store. The team's going to go back to the drawing board, work hard, improve, but also work on their strengths, their weaknesses, and season 3, bring it on.
Yeah, thanks very much indeed, Hannah. It's been a pleasure commentating alongside you. We'll see you very soon. But Dave, I mean, what more can you say? I mean, we couldn't even call it coming into the finale. We knew that things were delicately balanced in the men's championships. But what a great advert for esports it is. I mean, it's joy, it's elation for Canyon, and it's bitter disappointment for Ceres and the Pros Closet.
Yeah, that's the razor's edge that is elite athletics, and being so close just leaves you hungry. How many times have we seen the rider in the second spot on the podium come back the next year, or the team come back the next year to win? It's just that much more fuel for the fire. I know that already the recruiting is underway. These teams, a lot of teams, Matt, believe that they're just one rider away from winning season 3. So good luck to everybody in that pursuit. We'll welcome more quality riders. My takeaway this season, though, is look at the dramatic change you saw from Legion of LA from season 1 to season 2. You can make big moves in the ZRL by bringing on quality riders, and all of a sudden you're in the mix, and it's incredibly exciting. So I know it's not next week, but I can't wait for race 1 of season 3.
Well, we're certainly going to come back fully recharged. Dave, Hannah, it's been a pleasure commentating alongside you. But that is the end of season 2. But the community racing on Zwift still continues, though those races will be happening in just a couple of hours' time. So please do head over to watch those races on Zwift Community Live. As you can see, just down there, and the playoffs, importantly, the playoffs for the community divisions in relation to the teams that will end up in the Premier Division take place this coming Friday and Saturday. So please make sure you head to Zwift Community Live to watch those playoffs, because they will determine the outcome of the squads that we'll be commentating on for season 3. So still a lot at stake for those teams battling it out to fight in the top division of racing. And also on Friday, make sure you tune in to the World of Zwift with OJ Borges as well. But for now, all it takes basically is for me to have a bit of a lie down, because I'm absolutely exhausted. Thanks very much for tuning in. Please get involved in the comment section as well. It's been a pleasure having you alongside us all for season 2 of the Zwift Racing League. But stay safe, see you soon, and ride on.